Well, we're getting all this last minute paperwork. All right, everybody, can you please take your seats?
Wow. Oh, man. Wow.
I like that. Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Scared me a little bit.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for being here, everyone. Welcome to the Placerville City Council November 14th meeting. Wow, they did quiet down quick. Okay. All right, will you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Where's our flag? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Regina, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Clarici.
Present.
Councilmember Gottberg.
Here.
Councilmember Yarbrough.
Here.
Vice Mayor No.
Here.
And Mayor Saragosa will be noted as absent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move to number 3, ceremonial matters. 3.1, announcement of promotion for Sergeant Addison Randall. Chief Wren, there he is.
Joe, is your mic on there? Yeah, the green light's on. Okay, can you hear him okay?
I can hear him.
Could everybody? Whoa, there. I'm going to just say a couple words about Addison, and I'm going to turn the mic over to him so he can introduce his guests and talk about how great the police department, the chief is. He was promoted after all, so. Addison came to us in 2015, and he really hit the ground running. He held a number of assignments prior to his promotion. He's been our school resource officer, our drug recognition expert. He's been a member of the HOT team, a detective, field training officer. Anything else? I had a bio and I left it on my desk. It's easy to talk about Addison because he's just a great guy, and he shows up every day for not only the department but the community as a whole. He went through an extremely competitive testing process to end up where he is today. I think Councilmember Clarici can attest to a part of that process. That included a written test, a written exercise that needed to be submitted prior to the testing, a citizen panel, and a law enforcement professional panel. That was the easy part. Then he had to spend about an hour with me. And at the conclusion of that entire process, it was evident that Addison was ready for this assignment. So I'm going to turn it over to him so he can introduce his family, and then we'll swear him in.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for having me tonight. Here today, I have my wife, Missy, and my son, Harrison, and daughter, Nolan. I just want to say thank you to Chief, our admin, Dan and John, and to the department for giving me the opportunities I've been able to have with my career here in Placerville. Thank you for the city. Great place to work, and look forward to working here for a much longer time.
Ready to make it official?
Let's do it.
Let's get you to stand up here with your family and just face the photo. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Addison Randall, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation
Congratulations, Addison.
Can we do a picture after it's over with the other two?
Yes,
Absolutely. All right, then we'll move to 3.2, swearing in of new police officers Nicole Arisman and Owen Antises. Chief Wren.
Close enough on his last name. I just keep it at Owen, and he answers. We're really fortunate in the city of Placerville to get very high caliber applicants testing for a position up here. Obviously, those of us that live, work, and play in this area know the beauty and all the great things about Placerville. And I think that's a key component for when these applicants submit their application to become members of our team. They see that as well, and they want to be a part of it. So I'd like to invite Owen and Nicole. Come on up. You just stand right. Stand right. Don't stand in front of Nicole. There you go. So we'll start with Owen. Owen came to us with experience. He worked at Sac City and also Folsom. So we're happy to have that experience up here. We're really thankful that the city of Sacramento and the city of Folsom paid a lot of money to train him. We're benefiting from that training and experience. And Nicole came to us from Sac County, where she was in dispatch. So needless to say, her radio etiquette is absolutely superb, and her training is going extremely well. The best news about inviting or having these two new members of the department is that it brings our agency up to full staff, which we haven't had full staff since I've been here in 2016. So we're thankful that they chose us, and we're very excited to see what they can do for us. So I'm going to invite them to say a few words and introduce their loved ones.
Is it okay to stand on the side and address everyone? So first of all, thank you for welcoming you guys to the city. Grew up in a small town, Galt, just south of here. So it feels very at home for me to kind of come work here. It's nice to have a change, everyone actually waving at you and saying hi and wanting to come right up and talk to you. Everyone's been welcoming me at the department, down to the chief, all the way down to the officers. It's been a very good learning experience for me as well. Working in this community, I'm looking forward to helping making it better and learning the ways here and trying to make it a better place for everyone that lives here. So thank you for having me and thank you for giving me a chance. I appreciate it.
Who'd you bring?
So my father Hank couldn't make it, my brother Kyle. I'm going to have my mom Tammy, my grandparents Lori and Jeff are going to come up, and have my grandparents pin my badge as well. So.
My name is Nicole Arisman, and I just wanted to say to the city of Placerville, thank you for the opportunity to serve your beautiful community. I apologize. Thank you to my family and friends for all of the support over the years. And with me today, I have my mother, Kimberly, my grandmother, Debbie, and my husband, William, and other friends and family here to support me tonight. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. This really means a lot to serve this beautiful community, and I'm so happy to be here, so thank you.
And I when I swear officers in or promote them, I like to have the families up there with them, because this is a tough ride being a cop. And if we didn't have that family support, it would just be that much more difficult. So essentially, I'm swearing you guys in too, to help me keep an eye on them and make sure that they're doing everything they're supposed to do. And thank you to the families for being that support that they need, especially as they go through training and they go through their probationary period. It's a stressful time. We try to make it as comfortable as we can, but having been in that position, it doesn't matter. It's still a lot of stress associated with it. So, all right. You ready? I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. And that concludes our presentation. If we can get that photo real quick.
Yeah, we'll take a minute and take photos.
Awesome, thank you. So you guys stay up there. Any other family members you want to bring up? Call them up. Family or friends? Friends and family. Daniel, you guys? Come on. Come on, Eris. Come on, Daniel.
All right, that's one of the best things right there.
Yeah,
Full staff, that's
Oh, that's amazing.
I know.
And we pulled one up the hill. That's amazing.
Yeah. Congratulations to Owen and Nicole.
You can all leave, by the way.
Okay,
They're all gonna take off right as much as we
everyone
like
was here for the swearings in. You are free to go. You don't have to sit through the rest of our lovely meeting.
to, unless you really want to.
All right, we will move on to item 4, which is our closed session report, which we have none because we had no closed session. We will move on to item 5, adoption of the agenda. I had a request to move 12.1 to earlier in the agenda. I was going to move that to 6.2 if that's agreeable, because it is a presentation. That's a presentation from the Fire Safe Council. Just ask, and they're asking us to co-sponsor the event, but it is a presentation. So with that change, I will.
I'll move the agenda with the suggested change of moving 12.1 to 6.1?
To 6.2.
To 6.2.
I'll second.
We need to take public comment for that.
Yes.
Okay, we'll take public comment for adoption.
you don't need it.
Oh, you don't need it? Okay.
We're just moving
All
it.
right. All right. Gina, can we have roll call?
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to announcements and presentations to the public. 6.1, recognition for Rebecca Neve, city engineer. Mr. Morris.
Well, these are the moments when you don't like to make these announcements, but unfortunately, we have to. First of all, I want to congratulate Rebecca on her new position as city engineer with the city of Folsom. Great opportunity for her. Our loss, their gain, definitely. We will miss her, but we know that it'll be a good move for her and her family, and it's the right thing for her. I've had a lot of discussions with her, and we went right through a lot to get where we are here, but it'll be a good opportunity for her. As you all know, Rebecca has been great here for the city. I don't know anybody that has brought more in terms of especially funding for transportation projects. We've been through a lot on those, and she's done a great job for us in getting that. And we hope to continue that, moving on with what we do in the future. So with that, Rebecca, thank you. We'll miss you, but we know we'll still see you around. You've promised me that. So, and remember, I still have your cell phone number, so I can contact you anytime. So with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
Do you have comments, the council, or do you want to take public first? Okay, I'm going to call up Wendy Thomas, our supervisor, first. I know that she wanted to say some words.
Good evening, Placerville City Council and members of the Placerville community. It is an honor to be here today. I am Wendy Thomas, and I happen to be serving as the chairman of the Board of Supervisors. And it is a privilege to honor you tonight, Rebecca. Totally bittersweet. And I've shared these comments with you before, but as I was serving on the City Council and we were pressed with a daunting task of a crumbling road network and sewer system and pipe system, and we didn't know where the funding was going to come from, and as the mandates were piling up and so were the fines, we recognized we had to do something to shore up our city. And then you came along, and with your deep skill set and your heart and your love and your passion for our city, we knew that if we got you the resources, you would shore up the city. And so it was a small group of us that worked on Measure L. And you were a large driver behind that immense effort to garner tens of millions of dollars, because we knew that funding and that investment would be safe in your hands. And you have multiplied that and brought home just a legacy of projects that have made a meaningful difference now and for generations to come. And so I'd like to offer this certificate of appreciation on behalf of the County of El Dorado and District 3 in recognition of your outstanding contribution to the City of Placerville and to the County of El Dorado. While serving as the Placerville City Engineer, Ms. Neves has been instrumental in coordinating, facilitating, and implementing capital improvement projects that will leave a lasting legacy for generations to come. Since 2015, 52 infrastructure construction projects have been completed, with dozens more in the works through the application of Measure L funds and from millions of additional grant dollars she has secured. 8 completed projects have won Project of the Year by the Sacramento chapter of the APWA. These include the Western Placerville Interchange, Phase 2, Main Street Rehabilitation Project, and the Trip to Green pilot project that won the 2022 Innovative Project of the Year. Beyond her significant and profound professional contributions to the City of Placerville and to the County of El Dorado, Ms. Neves has given Placerville her heart, volunteering her time and talents to implement seasonal holiday lights on Main Street, placing flags on Main during patriotic holidays, which you did on Veterans Day, gathering weekly with community members to uplift and support the city, and many more unseen gifts and contributions that have enhanced the community spirit of this place we call home. Ms. Neves is wished all the best in her professional journey forward, with deep and heartfelt gratitude from District 3 of the County of El Dorado for her unwavering commitment and faithful, dedicated service. So we love you, we wish you well, and we are excited to see what is to come, and we can't thank you enough for your enduring, lasting contributions to the city. So.
Thank you, Supervisor Thomas. Okay, we'll now open this up to public comment for anyone else who'd like to make a comment about Rebecca. I know no one ever wants to follow Wendy, but come on up.
All of that. I don't think you do. But, and I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know. But all I can say is, as someone who's been on the business end of dealing with some of the projects or being impacted by some of the things that were dealt with, she made it fun to have your street torn up and have pipes replaced and dealt with water lines that you can't find anywhere. She made it easy, and the word effervescent always comes to mind when I think of her. You're losing a great face for our local government and how she interfaces with the public, and we're going to miss her.
Sue Rodman, I've been a member of the Measure HL committee since it was started, and I can say that Rebecca is an amazing person to work with. We have gone over projects with her, and she has been able to explain so that we understood what was wrong, what needed to be fixed, how it needed to get done, and what resources that she could bring to help. And it has been an amazing journey. And I thank her very much. Without her, I don't think Measure H&L committee would have been as successful, and Measure L projects would not have been as successful. So thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Sue.
Good evening. Dennis Thomas, former city council member, former mayor, and I have had the opportunity to work on many of these projects, both city and not city related. There's a lot of things that you have done that are amazing, and your support for this community is amazing. I don't want to talk about that because I think we all know what you've done, and people have elaborated on that. I want to talk about you. Your faith has guided you through so many challenging situations in the city. And that's one of the things I really value about you. You have an amazing integrity for getting things done, both on and off the field. You show up. I made a list because there's a lot of things about you that I really value. And I feel like it's one of those shows where I'm just talking about how awesome you are, but it's true. Your love for this community is beyond measure from my standpoint. You have given so many different ways that are unrelated to your job, whether you're showing up for work days, you're showing up for cleanup days, you're showing up for, I don't know how many times you have helped us put up flags on Main Street. And your love for our law enforcement and for the military, it really shows through on a lot of things you do, and I'm a big believer in that myself. Your dedication to your family and your children and your husband, and they show up with you. You lead by example. You get up at ridiculous early hours in the morning to do things that I never thought I'd get emails from you on, and I'm sure your husband can attest to that, the kids, but you do that. You really show up so often just to support our community, and that love for the community is I will not forget your gift in so many ways that aren't related to your job, aren't related to the roads and the sewers and all the other things that you've done too. It's your heart and your love for this community that has stuck with me. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you, Dennis.
Good evening. My name's Dan Bolster, and I work for the El Dorado County Transportation Commission. And contrary to a lot of my coworkers' beliefs, the gray hair on my head is not due to riding shotgun with Rebecca to 50 project development team meetings up in Marysville. But that said, all of us at the Transportation Commission just feel privileged to have worked with Rebecca for over 10 years. She's somebody that is, as everybody said here, is passionate, driven, and just loves Placerville and always wants the best for, as she would say, our little town. And she also makes things fun. I mean, maybe you don't look at a $20 million bridge project and go, this is going to be fun, but Rebecca just makes it fun because I think I've been at the commission almost 20 years. Rebecca's been here, what, about 10 or 9? And in that time, she's gotten more projects done than everybody that preceded her before. And it's just remarkable. So just from the commission, thank you, Rebecca, for all that you've got done for the city and the county, because these projects ripple out and benefit us all. So really appreciate it and wish you the best.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, I'm Brian James with El Dorado Transit. I just wanted to say thank you. Had the chance to work with Rebecca on a couple of projects with Upper Broadway, with the Western Placerville interchange, with the park and ride there. Been incredibly impressed with her work and with the things that have been able to be accomplished. I think we've always had a good working relationship with the city, but I think that's even been taken to a new level with her work and with the dedication. And I just wanted to tell you thank you and good luck with everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone else? Oh, okay.
Good evening, Mark Acuna, former city council member, a longtime resident of the city of Placerville. What an honor it is to be here this evening to be at this part of a chapter of Rebecca's career as an engineer. And having been involved in 9 years of watching this woman take on everything that this town had to throw at her, and as the speakers before have so eloquently stated, she was always up to the challenge. She blessed this city and our staff with a solid reputation. When you're in a big project management and millions of dollars and lots of people are watching, it's very difficult and it's very easy to back away. That was never a case in a project that Rebecca was involved in. Sitting here listening to the other speakers, it gave me an opportunity to write up a list of things she's done. And really, as her kids go through town, or her grandkids go through town, it's really cool. Allow me to also say that I'm honored to express Attorney John Driscoll's best regards. He's unable to be here this evening because it's his 79th birthday. So, Western Placerville Interchange. That was a project that could have gone sideways many, many times. And the park and ride that goes with that, there were hundreds of meetings that held that project together. Every time I come up Highway 50 and I look at the auxiliary lanes and that parking lot and those ramps, that there was a certain faction in town that thought were absolutely horrible. Isn't it a delight that the traveling public really enjoys that facility as it is designed and designed as it should be? What a testament, just as you come into town. Mosquito Park and Ride, a project that did go sideways. Lost funding, found funding, federal, state, and local. And it is, and Cleve, you need to buy another cake, because there really should be a ribbon cutting for that project. And it's this city engineer, Rebecca Neves, that brought that through hell and tarnation. And there are really a lot of partners that without her teamwork, would not have been willing to come forward. I know, for example, PG&E could have easily charged $1 million for some of the relocation work. Didn't go that way. So that is a real feather in your cap, that one. The the Clay Street reconstruction. That's kind of early in your career. Took one of the worst streets in town, or no, excuse me, not Clay Street. Help me. Well, Main Street, Spring Street, all the streets, Bedford. Pick one. I've noticed that my only gripe is she stayed on the north side of town, and I live on the south side of town. No, seriously, the number of projects are just phenomenal. And through this, and through the help of Measure H&L, she has banished thousands of feet of Orangeburg sewer line from this town. Not glamorous, but massively important to the public health and safety of a very expensive to operate sewer system, which, by the way, she has been the director of the wastewater plant for several years now. A real jewel and another expensive investment that every citizen counts on. And lastly, let me just say that her tremendous ability to focus with folks and work with teams in Caltrans is an example of that. The trips to Marysville, that's really something that the public will never appreciate, but yet Rebecca was there at hundreds of them, I'm sure. But even more than that is she managed to rein in PG&E. They, in their hurry to make up for 30 years, ran amok about 6 years ago. Started closing streets, tearing things up, not letting anybody know. She put a stop to it. She actually halted them, got their attention, and now they obey the rules and regulations and apply for their permits just like all the rest of us. So thank you very much, Rebecca. It has been an honor to be a part of your life and your history as a city engineer.
Thank you, Mark.
Patty Borelli, former councilman, mayor. In the 16 years that I was on the council, we really started, and I also, during that period of time, served on Transportation Commission and Transit Commission, all that Rebecca was involved with. And I have to say that when she came, that's when things really started getting done. I've said it many, many times, I don't think the public realizes how long a project takes, and we quite often get criticized, but Rebecca did her best to keep things going and satisfy people. And I'm not going to repeat everything that's already been said because it's ditto. But I will say this, I never voted no against anything you proposed. That and I'm so happy for you for your future, but I just really what a loss to our city. But you're not very far down the hill, and there's no reason why you can't come back up and participate in all the fun things, so you don't have to do the work. So we're looking forward to seeing you at all those. Good luck.
Thank you, Patty. Anyone else? Okay, we'll bring this back to the council. Comments from the council? Start with Nicole.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it was great getting to know you over the last year. I know we've sort of nerded out over engineering and environmental stuff sometimes. And, you know, your enthusiasm and what you've done for the city and your hard work and just the number of projects you've accomplished is incredible. I will certainly miss you. I would love it if you stayed, but I understand it's a great opportunity for you.
Wow. Yeah, I've done this a couple times now. Thank you very much. Everything's been said about the projects and everything. And as I mentioned, I think in the Transportation Commission, it's a rare gift to get somebody who has brains and passion and then good project management skills. You have to have all three. You could be passionate and smart, but if you can't run a project, you're kind of useless. So having those three things is really important. I always appreciated the fact that Rebecca would treat me not like most engineers treat people, and actually sit down and talk to me and show me how things went together and guided me through stuff. And I found her to be a very valuable sounding board because sometimes things would come up in the city that had something to do with public works or engineering or some project, and I would be going like I do, and she would then take and go, well, no, this is what we can do. And I would think, well, we can't get any. And then she would come back, well, no, we might be able to do something. And sometimes she would take my weird ideas and make them real, which was really cool. Anyway, they were really weird ideas. Anyway, Anyway, so we're sorry to see you go, but it's good for you. You get out of Dodge and maybe come back to Dodge at some point, and we'll see what you've learned in the big city. Anyway, we're gonna miss you. I've got your cell number. We'll have lunch. It'll be fine. Thank you very much.
Do you have anything, David?
Oh, sure. I figure we're just going down the line. I feel sorry for the person who's got to fill your shoes. You have made a huge impression on this city.
The person's actually here.
I know. That's why I said it. No, I want to thank you for helping me out in my first year doing this, answering all my questions, being a great help to directing me for the right direction that I need to find the answers that I'm looking for. So I look forward to working with your replacement and just wondering around how many questions I really do ask. So anyway, we're going to miss you. Thank you, Rebecca, and good luck.
As everyone has illustrated, you are a superstar. You really are. But more than that, we've worked on a lot of projects, small and large, over the years. And what happens is we start to become a family. And, we all work towards the same goal. We agree, we disagree, we agree to disagree, and we keep moving it forward, and we keep getting it done for the citizens. And we're just really going to miss you as a part of our family. And with that, I'm here to give you a plaque from the city.
Very good.
Don't worry, this won't be like one of my staff reports that takes 27 minutes. Thank you so much for all the heartfelt comments and kind words. And if you allow me to say my thank yous, I would like to. There's quite a few. But first and foremost is actually to God. It was His grace and goodness that brought me here, and to all of you. And you are a part of my family, and I love you all very much. I came here, Pierre introduced me on Veterans Day in 2014. I remember that. I can't believe we had a council meeting on a federal holiday, but look at us go. And I remember Wendy coming up to me at that meeting, and she looked at me, she's like, "Oh girl, this is gonna be good." So, it was kind of funny that that happens to be this time around Veterans Day again that I'm responding to my next call of service. So, but there's a lot of thank yous. Just really grateful for everybody. But I would like to thank my amazing family, my wonderful, supportive, brilliant, thoughtful, and extremely good-looking husband, Ryan. He too has been a part of the good work we've done here, from holding down the fort at home to during night work in 2015 for Main Street, and then again in 2016 for Main Street. And all the emergencies and storms, trip to Green weekends, and the Caldor fire evacuation, to scrubbing Main Street garbage cans with us, and painting over graffiti in the parking structure, along with the rest of my caring and dedicated department heads and city manager. And, he's helped us clean up homeless camps, and he's put flags on Main Street with me on countless holidays, including last Saturday on Veterans Day. He is my best friend, my ride or die, and the love of my life. Thank you, and I love you. I'd also like to thank my two bright, beautiful, and brilliant children. My two lovely daughters, Reese and Dylan. You are the joy of my heart. You are the best teachers I have ever had. And you make me very proud of you every day. You too have supported Placerville and helped it make it better every day. Some of you may not know, but the plaque that's dedicated to Brian Ishmael at the Railroad Drive El Dorado Trail was designed by my daughter, Dylan, because of just how impactful and how much we respect law enforcement. in our family. So thank you for doing that, honey. You'll see both of them at community events and opportunities to serve, and even on early morning on Wednesdays, alongside Pastor Jeff Oliver, who is just a phenomenal person and a man of God, where we pray at the bell tower for our pretty little city and our first responders, our teachers, our schools, and specifically all of our leaders and our electeds, because it helps. I'd also like to thank my coworkers and all the city staff from every department. We have some amazing public servants to our community. They show up even on days when it's tough to show up. They show up during pandemics, emergencies, road closures, to go to the counter to address an angry visitor, and any other way they know how, and being a good and faithful servant. Not only that, they show up for each other. To my friends in Public Works and PD, Tim at the Fire District, and Finance and Development Services and Community Services, and our administration, and the awesome city attorneys that we've had. Thanks for keeping me out of jail, girlfriend. You all hold a special place in my heart, and I cherish you all. To my engineering department family and to everyone at the wharf, they show up when everybody else is headed for cover. Thank you for your faithful service and dedication to our community. To everyone on the third floor, Melissa, Corey, Roma, Wes, and retired staff Mark, Celeste, and Brett, you made it a joy to work for Placerville. You are all capable, caring people with the utmost integrity. And if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I thank God every day for you. It's been an honor to work alongside you all. And there's a lot of amazing people in this town, seriously. We've heard from a few of them tonight. We have the Thomases, the Veerkamps, the Putoffs, the Clarichis, the Saragosas, the Morrises, the Warrens, Main Street merchants, the Vicinis, the amazing folks at Moore, Marion Washburn, the Acunas, and the Chamber, and so many others. Too many to name. Thank you for blessing me with knowing you, and thank you for what you do for Placerville. I can fondly also recall 2 a.m. running traffic control with Dennis while we were stringing lights across Main Street, and poor Matt was in a scissor lift above the middle of the road. But it was moments like this that not everyone knows about, and how much you do in the subtlest of ways for our community, and what you do and pour your heart out for. But I just want you to know I always saw you, and it was never lost on me. So going to Folsom was a difficult decision to make, but it was one I felt called to do. It's come to be known in my heart as my trust fall with God. I know He brought me to Placerville, and if I'm supposed to return, He'll make sure that happens too. But no matter what, at every table I will ever sit at, Placerville will have a friend and an advocate in me. It has truly been an honor and a privilege to work and serve in this community. I feel blessed for knowing you all. You have made me a better engineer and a person for knowing you. I'm grateful to call you friends and family, and that doesn't end with my service shifting to Folsom. I am leaving you in very capable hands, and I'm never more than a phone call or a text away. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, we will move to 6.2, which is actually 12.1, a presentation and request from the Placerville Fire Safe Council for co-sponsorship of the spring education event. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is kind of a repeat of what we did last year, and we're grateful for the Fire Safe Council and those that are planning this event. I think it was a very successful event last year, and they are proposing to do the same this year. This is their third annual event, be held on March 23rd, 2024. And what the city will be a co-sponsor of the event. We will do, or we're requesting that we would do similar to what we did last year with council's approval. And I've listed those items that we will send out a flyer for them through our utility bill, provide tables and chairs for the event at the event site. placing barricades and assisting with traffic control in the parking lot. And then as last year, we provided a staff person to assist with that process throughout the day. So with that, I would like to invite Mark Acuna to come up and talk more about the event. And then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Cleve. Good evening, City Council and staff, department heads. Mark Acuna, chair member of the Placerville Fire Safe Council and event coordinator for the 2024 Fire Safe event. I'd like to thank you for allowing us this evening. Appreciate your time. I appreciate you moving us up. I will try and be brief. Appreciate the sincerity of the previous item. This evening, we have a couple of our members here also. Sue Rodman, who is a regular here at the council, and Patty Borelli. I don't think our chairman, David Zielinski, is able to make it this evening, so I will fill in for him. Cleve, I think, has given you a good idea of what we will be asking for again from the city's assistance. It was hugely successful last year. The little bits and pieces that are missing, the city has those, and it just makes the event so much easier to put on. Just quickly to let you know, at this point, I'm happy to advise everybody that the El Dorado County Fire District, Chief Cordero, has graciously thrown his full support and sponsorship behind the event for 2024. We have a commitment from CAL FIRE, so we'll expect Captain Cal to be here again. U.S. Forest Service, El Dorado National Forest, they will be in attendance also, and they come with Smokey Bear. Not Smokey the Bear. City Police Department will be there, providing their knowledge as far as our ongoing evacuation training. Some of the highlights that we enjoyed last year, coming back again this year, is the animal evacuation. We'll have a nonprofit vendor as well as animal control there to outline the current procedures for pet and animal evacuation. We will also have neighborhood radio watch. They are the folks that step up when the cell system doesn't work. Sadly, we all witnessed that recently with the fire in Maui and Lahaina, as all of that so dependent cell system just failed that community. That is where Neighborhood Radio Watch will shine. As you would expect, we also have various home hardening and safety organizations planning on attending. I got a confirmation today that El Dorado Disposal will be there. You have to have a way to get rid of your green waste, and so they were hit last year, and they've agreed to come back. I also got a commitment this afternoon from Placerville Rotary, and they will be providing a food wagon and their famous Rotary dogs free of charge throughout the event. And I am also working on, again, providing the fire simulation table, making contact just recently with Chief Johnson, the El Dorado Hills Fire Department, and seeing if he and his staff can, again, bring the fire simulation table up to our event. And I promised the chief that we will do a better job in getting a location for the table so that it'll be much more highly visible and easier to see for a larger audience. It was a huge hit last year as they graciously created programs on their computer to burn selected neighborhoods in Placerville. It's pretty intense to watch, but you think is a safe spot disappear as a fire approaches on town. So we look forward to getting that again at the event. As Cleve mentioned, it'll be again at 681 Main Street or Midtown Mall. That arrangement is already secured. There will be a outdoor fire display this year. I'm going to get with the chief to firm that up. Diamond Springs Fire Protection District will also be participating in that. And I hope to have an opportunity to actually get the kids or adults out in the parking lot and spray a little water around. So, and that ought to be some good fun. So with that, I would be happy to answer any of your questions. We appreciate the opportunity to speak and ask for your support for our event for wildfire safety in 2024.
Thank you, Mark. Questions from the council? No? Okay. Okay, we'll open this up to public comment. Don't everybody run at once? Okay, we will bring that back to the council for discussion.
I had the opportunity to help out with last year's event. I was there. I helped put things up in high places for Patty. posters and stuff, and with some crowd control and stuff. It was a great event. It was just a super event. Lots of things, lots of interesting stuff. The sand table's really cool, and watching things burn, but in a simulated fashion. So any support within reason we can provide is, I think, totally warranted for this. But it was a great event.
Nicole, David?
I think it's a great event as well. I think we should support it.
Do we have a motion then?
I will move to approve the request as outlined.
Second.
Do we need a roll call, please?
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much, and I would just like to add, we hope to surpass 500 folks in attendance. Last year we were in the 300 range, so we're going to shoot for over 500 this year. And again, I would be amiss if I didn't thank Chief Wren and Chief Cordero for their enthusiastic support last year in moving to our newer, bigger location and everything that that's brought us. So thank you, Council, for your support.
Great. Good luck to you. Okay, we will move to 6.3, brief comments by the City Council. We'll start with Nicole.
Yeah, so I have a couple. One is I attended the Sugar Squell Art Walk Dia de los Muertos event, which was a really nice event on Main Street. It was very heavily attended. I also attended kind of their post meeting with the organizers last weekend. A couple of things, they had handed out all 650 tamales that they had, so they know they had more than 650 people that were in attendance at their event. They had over 4,000 views of their event page on social media. And the art exhibit at Arts and Culture Switchboard Gallery, where the ofrendas, one of the galleries where the ofrendas were being displayed, was the most heavily visited exhibit that the gallery has ever put on. So just for folks to know. I do think that the space was small for the number of people who ended up attending, and they are working on coming forward with a proposal for next year on how to kind of improve that and accommodate the large size of the event. And then I just also wanted to, because I don't have any place else to bring this up, you know, I've had some constituents approach me with concerns related to the fact that the name on our marketing materials that's being put out by El Dorado Community Foundation is Hometown Christmas, which wasn't what was discussed in our meeting publicly. You know, the name there was Hometown Holiday, and they didn't have a chance to comment on that name, which I definitely understand, regardless if you like the name or don't like the name. It isn't what was sort of agreed to by the city or presented to us. And so I do feel like that is a concern. I did talk to staff about it, and my understanding is it was an independently made decision by El Dorado Community Foundation to change it without input from city staff. So I'd like to see it say Hangtown or Hometown Holiday. That is the name that we agreed to. Not Hangtown, I'm cool with that too, but that's not what we agreed to. Hometown Holiday, as that was the name that was agreed to in the meeting.
John?
Yeah, I would like to comment about the Day of the Dead as well. That was a wonderful thing. It was nice because there was a lot of people, and there was lots of things to look at, and stuff that I'm not particularly familiar with. So that was an introduction to some stuff. And then just the vibe was great. The vibe was great, and it was nice because it was something on Main Street that's different than we normally have. So having something different that's a kind of a different cultural thing, it was really cool. And there was a lot of people, and the tacos were great. They were great, by the way. I had one. I only ate one, but they were really good. So anyway, everything was good. It was a good thing. And next year, yes.
John, do you have anything? Oh. Oh.
No. No comments at this time.
Oh, yeah, you. Okay. I attended 2 sewer lateral ad hoc meetings. Very exciting stuff. I attended a consult meeting with the Sierra Harm Reduction Coalition, and I attended the Veterans Day event, which was a really great event. Everyone should go. That's a really neat event. Yes, with regards to the name, I had heard rumors about that, and certainly we as a council had approved something that was outlined, so Cleve, if you could look into that, that's not what we approved. You can't be changing names arbitrarily. It does upset the community. I understand that. That's why we have a council meeting to discuss those things and give the public an opportunity to have input. Okay, with that, we will move on to the consent calendar. Questions, comments from council members? No? Okay, we will open the consent calendar up to public comment.
Two comments.
Sue Rodman, Measure H, Measure L. I was really happy to see that we got rid of some more Orangeburg pipe and got a sewer pipe bursting project done, and good for us. One of Rebecca's projects that's made it through and made an improvement.
Great.
It is
Thank you,
awesome.
Sue.
Yeah.
Okay, other public comments on the consent calendar? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council.
I'll move the consent.
I'll second.
You have roll call?
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to public comment, non-agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matters not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. State law prohibits the council from acting on items not listed on the agenda except by special action of the City Council under specific circumstances. The mayor reserves the right to limit the speaker time to 3 minutes. You are not allowed to make personal attacks or individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade a individual's personal privacy. Okay, Mandy.
Hi, Mandy Rodriguez. I didn't make copies of this. I think I sent one of these to Councilmember Yarborough. This is the City of Southlake. I'm not here to cause trouble, so everybody just calm down. I'm not causing trouble. This is hopefully a good thing. This is their ordinance for hosted short-term rentals. Hosted, meaning a room, not my detached garage that everyone thinks is an Airbnb, although you are all welcome to come to my open studio that I'm going to have before Christmas, and I might have cake there too. But anyway, this is their ordinance. It's pretty clear, and I think that you guys could adopt this and use it to help people like me. I started my rental, my room, before you guys changed the rules. So I'm asking that you grandfather me in, and people that have already been renting rooms. It's just a room. I'm not taking away. And this is why South Lake Tahoe did it this way, is because it's only places that are hosted. So it's part of your home, right? I don't know if I would qualify to be an actual B&B. I know my house is 50 years old. It's on a historic street. I don't know if anything historical happened in my house. Okay, I have a historical creek that runs through it. I don't know if that qualifies. But I know that the city or planning is saying that they're shorthanded. But this is a way for them to just read it, change whatever you need to, and put it forward. Financially, you guys are, I'm just kidding, freaking slaughtered. Financially. I mean, I'm one person. I pay by myself $260+ every 2 months just for my water, my power, everything. The sewer thing that's coming up, like, I'm just like, oh God, I'm pretty sure the guy I bought the house from already did some sort of sewer, but I'm getting slaughtered. And it's not, it's the bills that you guys are raising on us. And if I can't continue to rent my room, I can't afford to live here. I don't even know where I can afford to live. Right now, I'm blessed that my mortgage is cheaper than most rent. I'm very, very blessed about that. But I'm begging you to do a moratorium on people like me. I'm the only one here. There's not a rush for people to rent their room out in their home. There really isn't. I'm begging you to please do a moratorium or please grandfather me in and adopt this ordinance and use it. Give people an opportunity to live.
Thank you, Mandy. Okay, do we have other public comment?
Of course, when have I ever not gotten up here? Sue Rodman. I have a comment from a person who emailed me and said, if anything going to ever happen to Tunnel Street? And I couldn't find, so I asked Rebecca, and she said, next year. So I will email Kathy Leishman back and tell her it's on the list to fix next year. And the other concern I have is we have baseball fields that are not safe for people to play on. How can the city charge fees to play on unsafe fields? Those fees should be used to keep the playing fields in good condition, and otherwise, you should cancel the program.
Thank you, Sue.
Jamie Lowe, Placerville on Chamberlain Street. I did everything I could to figure out a way to not come here and talk about this. But just to get the word out, well, I guess maybe I should start this way. Went out to breakfast and saw the article in the Mountain Democrat saying that the name of the event had been changed from the hometown holiday, which I thought was a fantastic name. I was really, really pleased to hear when an effort was being made to be inclusive to everyone that lives here. And when it was changed to Hometown Christmas, I understand that it's not that big of a deal in the scheme of things, but I got to be honest, it hurt a little bit. These things do make a difference. The names, what we call things, makes a difference. And over the past few years, I mean, I appreciated, I really did, what El Soto and what the churches did to try to bring something that was positive to the town. But for people like me that live here, made me feel a little bit left out, feel excluded from the whole thing. And it just seemed unnecessary. So I just wanted to register that and appeal to anybody who has any power to not just address this particular issue tonight, but things going forward, just to make sure that we are putting out things that are inclusive for everyone. So I don't know what the mechanics are. I've talked to a number of different people about what happened with the foundation. There was nothing nefarious that happened there. It was a good effort, a good faith effort, I think, to try to do something that was good for everyone. But if we can, revert it back to the name that it was last week and try to maintain that going forward, that'd be great. I'll understand if you feel like that might be too onerous of a thing to do. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jamie. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Move to 8.2. Do we have any written communications? Gina?
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor, we did receive written communication for item 10.1. Actually, 2 items of written communication for 10.1, copies of which are on the back table. And I believe there was one item for 12.3 received from Kathy Leishman that came in at the last minute, copies of which were provided to you, and the remainder of those copies were placed on the back table.
Thank you, Regina. Okay. We will move to item 9, items pulled from the consent calendar. We have none. We will move to ordinances. 10.1, consider the introduction of an ordinance amending Title 7 of the Placerville Municipal Code Health and Sanitation, adding Chapter 17, Private Sewer Lateral Ordinance to the City Code. Mr. Rivas.
Thank you, members of the council. I'm going to start with just a statement as to why does the city need a private sewer lateral ordinance? It's been a lot of questions from the public. So I'm going to start with a little history. Much of the city was developed over the last half century or more, meaning that many existing private sewer services and laterals are utilizing inferior pipe materials or may have other structural defects that contribute to the release of sewage called sanitary sewer overflows, or SSOs, into the environment, which can cause a threat to public health and the environment. Another problem is the contribution of I&I, which is inflow and infiltration of groundwater and stormwater into the city's collection system. And many of these private sewer systems contribute to that. The goal here is to keep our city clean, reduce and eliminate health threats, and maintain the city's overall sewer system and wastewater treatment plant in compliance with the city's permits from the Central Valley Water Resources Control Board. I'm going to go back in history a little bit. Back in August of 2016, the city agreed to a settlement agreement with the California River Watch after they filed an intent to file suit under the Clean Water Act for failure to comply with the city's Hangtown Creek Water Reclamation Facility permits, failure to comply with the city's National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, NPDES for short, and for discharges known as sanitary sewer overflows, SSOs, from its collection system. So I'm going to read some sections out of that settlement agreement that was approved by the city. The city shall implement the following supplemental environmental project, which the parties agree is intended to secure significant benefits to the local environment. Private main and lateral inspection and repair program. So the city agreed that within 1 year from the effective date of the agreement, the city staff shall recommend to the city council an ordinance establishing a program for the inspection, repair, and/or replacement of private sewer mains or laterals. The program would use the following events as a basis or triggers for inspection, repair, and/or replacement. 1, transfer of ownership of the property if no inspection or replacement of the private sewer main or lateral occurred within 15 years prior to the transfer. 2, the occurrence of 2 or more sanitary sewer overflows caused by the same private sewer main and/or lateral within the past 2 years. 3, a change of use of the structure served that results in higher flow than the current use. Or 4, the addition of a bathroom or major kitchen remodel that results in higher flow. So the ordinance before you contains these triggers and then some additional triggers as well that staff feels are important that trigger the examination of these private sewer laterals. So subsequent to that, this is on November 10th of 2017, the city received another notice of violation and intent to file a suit under the Clean Water Act from the California Sports Fishing Protection Alliance. And I recall that staff at that time was somewhat baffled by this second notice, since typically these law firms draw out territories that do not overlap, meaning at that time when we were consulting with our city attorney, Mr. John Driscoll at that time, he was aware that there are these law firms that basically seek out the potential lawsuits of jurisdictions that may be in violation of the Clean Water Act. Since the Clean Water Act has provisions that will allow for that lawsuit to occur, and that's how they make their money. So the point here is the city is being watched. Anytime there is an unintended release of sanitary sewage overflow into the environment, or an SSO, that event must be quantified and reported to the California Regional Water Quality Control Board. On February 9th of 2023, the city received a notice of violation from the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board for discharges of untreated effluent from the Hangtown Creek Water Reclamation Facility into Hangtown Creek. In response, the city prepared letters, one dated March 9th of 2023 and the other August 10th of 2023, to the Regional Water Board. And the city then committed to addressing through necessary steps to correct these violations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the March 9th letter that was sent to the Regional Board. And there's a section C in that response letter in regards to privately owned sewer laterals. The city of Placerville contains an extensive network of private sewer connections and laterals that ultimately reach the city's publicly owned sewer collection system. These private systems have been identified as another major source of I&I into the public system. City staff is working on the development of a private sewer lateral ordinance, which is now before you, that will require property owners to video inspect their private sewer services and connecting laterals prior to the sale of a property. This will ensure that properties will be assessed for I&I, allowing for adequate repair and/or the replacement of potentially problematic pipes that are out of the city's maintainable jurisdiction. Codifying it through ordinance will give the city the ability to better enforce and more effectively ensure requirements of the plumbing code. And then there's a subsection CI, discharge action step. The city of Placerville will complete development of the private sewer lateral ordinance for approval and adoption by the city council prior to the final report deadline of August 10th of 2023. We've already passed that. So a second letter went out on August 10th of this year, and it also included a work plan to the regional board. And I'll just read briefly the discharger action step. The city of Placerville will complete the development of a private sewer lateral ordinance for approval and adoption by the city council prior to the final report deadline of August 10th of 2023 in process. Please see additional information below, and that information basically states that the city held a community meeting on May 24th of 2023 to discuss the draft power sewer ordinance. Due to workload in the department, development services staff, the ordinance has not yet been adopted, but is scheduled to be presented to the city council for adoption before November 1st of 2023. So we're there by a hair, a little over. Over the past 2-year time frame, service requests and repairs related to private sewer laterals and private sewer systems have accounted for almost double the repairs strictly tied to the public sewer collection system, which strains workload of our Public Works Division staff. For the city to avoid significant fines, the regional board required the city to prepare a work plan that included identifying sources of I&I in its collection system. The city has more than sufficient data to support that at the time, both public and private systems were the sources of I&I. Since 2017, the city has made significant progress on improving the public collection system to eliminate its I&I within its system. The city has spent well over $3.5 million in the past 6 years in I&I reduction projects, with over $1 million coming in from the Madrone and the Giovanni lift stations alone, which were both huge contributors to public I&I. Other projects include the Spring Street, Mosquito Road, Upper Broadway, Conrad Street Sewer, and the Hawking Sewer improvements. The city's recently completed and its upcoming projects will amount to above $4 million by the end of 2024. So the city has spent nearly $2 million on the wastewater reclamation facility over the past 4 years and since 2019 to increase our peak flow and durations and capacity. The city has done much to control I&I within the public collection system. However, on December 31st of 2022, the city experienced a 350-year storm. The effluent in I&I exceeded the plant's capacity, which caused the spilling of 1.5 million gallons of untreated sewage into Hangtown Creek. We know the bulk of this is now coming from the privately owned sewer systems, and we have a commitment to the state that needs to be met. So what are we currently doing without this ordinance? So the city has and is concurrently actively pursuing the use of code enforcement under its Title VII, Chapter 4. That's the sewer regulations in the county, in the city code, to address damaged and failing private sewer systems when the repair or replacement of a private system becomes known to the city. Section 7 speaks to the replacement of private systems that become known to the city. Section 7.419 of the city code specifies the responsibilities of the property owner. On October of 2015, the city developed a standardized form letter that identifies the location, condition of the sewer system, and the citation of city code and enforcement action if necessary. This procedure has been effective in pursuing private sewer lateral systems issues on more of a, what I would call a reactive basis. And I emphasize reactive because the city becomes involved after an enforcement event, which then can become an emergency situation. Then when the city finds that a number of homes are served by a common lateral, and I will use the term here, a common collector lateral, the city finds that the property owners of interest, having varying degrees of private ownership and responsibility, are sometimes can be reluctant to participating in the replacement or repair of that line. Violations and penalties are currently contained in our code under 7.4-20. The proposed private sewer lateral ordinance would be more proactive and provide a greater level of protection to the city's sewer system, the environment, public health, and safety. Rather than wait until a sewer spill for a private system failure, the proposed ordinance seeks to cause specified triggers initiating the testing and inspection of the private systems to determine their integrity, thus reducing future private common sewer lateral failures. This private sewer lateral ordinance before you establishes regulations and enforcement for the inspection, testing, repair, replacement, and the ongoing maintenance of the private sewer laterals, resulting in the issuance of what we're calling a Certificate of Lateral Compliance, COCL. Who does this ordinance apply to? This ordinance applies to all common private sewer laterals and individual private sewer service connections that will ultimately connect to the city's public sewer collection system. So what does this ordinance require? The ordinance requires a COLC, which initiates any repairs or replacements necessary to bring the private sewer lateral into compliance with the California Plumbing Code. And what are these triggers? I'll go over the triggers briefly. Before completing a title transfer of a parcel containing any structure with a sewer service connection shall obtain a COLC unless the property already has a COLC. The private sewer lateral or private sewer system is less than 20 years old. Remember, previously we had told the state we were going to, or we told the, as a settlement in that lawsuit, we looked at 15. We originally had 10 and we increased it to 20, and now it's, or we had requested 15, but now it's 20. A time extension request has been granted. A time extension may be granted for up to 180 days or 6 months. So that's a situation where the repairs could be extensive. It gives significant time, sufficient time, hopefully, for those repairs to be made. So number two, second trigger, whenever a property containing one or more structures is subdivided, the private sewer lateral serving the property shall be tested. 3, whenever the property is remodeled to include the addition of 2 or more new plumbing fixtures. We added the word new because people were concerned that just replacing a sink or a toilet or a bathtub would trigger it. It doesn't. It's a new facility. 4, whenever a property owner submits an application for the construction or building permit for the remodel of a structure where the cost equals or exceeds 25% of the market value of the structure. 5, upon the repair or replacement of a portion of a private sewer service or private sewer lateral. 6, following a sewer spill or complaint, and the city determines that the cleaning, testing, repair, or replacement of the private sewer lateral or private sewer system is required. And then 7, where the private sewer lateral was installed without a permit and does not have a COLC. So we do have some exceptions to these requirements. 1 would be where the property owner possesses a valid COLC. 2, where the property owner has installed a private sewer lateral under a permit and the filing date of said permit is less than 20 years. We put that in because originally it gave the impression that, boom, half the city had to get a COLC immediately because they didn't have this number 2 exception. And then number 3, we added an additional exception where a private common pressurized sewer lateral system is maintained through a maintenance agreement, and said agreement contains sufficient language to provide for the regular maintenance and funding. And the building official, under that circumstance, shall issue a COLC. So this ordinance has been before the City Council on January the 9th of 2018. That was first reading. Then again on August 9th of 2022 for a first reading. The council directed staff to hold a public workshop, which then was held on May the 24th of 2023. Following the workshop, the revised ordinance was brought to the City Council for a first reading on October the 24th of 2023. Following the workshop, the ordinance, I already read that. The ordinance, the council decided at that time to table the item and appoint an ad hoc council subcommittee to work with staff on addressing concerns and finalizing the ordinance. Council members No and Yarborough were selected to hold meetings with staff and bring back a revised ordinance to the council. 2 meetings were held, one on October the 31st and the next on November the 7th. Both council members No and Yarborough have made changes to the draft ordinance, making it more acceptable. Staff also reviewed the draft ordinance with Mr. Jim Copeland, representing the Bush Court Homeowners Association. His comments are included in your staff report. And Kimberly Beal of the El Dorado County Association of Realtors. And the ordinance was also extensively reviewed by our city attorney. Changes made to the previous draft that was before the City Council on October the 24th are shown as underline and strikeout. And I just want to just a caveat, please note that minor corrections of grammar, et cetera, may not be shown. So commas and that kind of thing, or if we didn't bother showing those as underline and strikeout. So some of the more major modifications made to the ordinance since it was last before the council, we changed the COLC term from 10 to 20 years. However, keep in mind that the city did commit to a 15-year term in that settlement agreement. But it was just a recommendation. Second, where we added an exception where a private common pressurized sewer lateral system is maintained through a maintenance agreement, and said agreement contains sufficient language to provide for regular maintenance and funding. The building official shall issue a COLC. We call this the Bush Court exception. Overall, the general reaction to having an ordinance in the first place as being a heavy burden. So the ordinance is meant to reduce sewer spill and to reduce infill and infiltration and inflow into our collection system, and that sometimes cause an overburdening of the wastewater treatment plant. In a perfect world, the sewer system only contains wastewater and no rain or groundwater. The public was also concerned with the cost burden for repairs. And we emphasize that the private sewer laterals are privately owned and are not part of the city's collection system. The ordinance does make it clear that all owners or users of a private lateral are jointly and severally responsible for repairs, not just the property owner that happens to be at the bottom of the hill. So I want to make 2 small recommended changes, and this would be a change made to section 7-17-7A, 3 and 4, and we would just like to add that the property owner shall replace, and we're adding or repair the private sewer lateral. So we're adding or repair, just to make it clear that you don't have to replace the whole thing if you're able to repair the system, such as pipe blasting and all these other new methods and technologies, as long as it's in conformance with the plumbing code. So we are requesting that. So with that, staff is recommending that you introduce and waive the first reading of this ordinance that would amend Title 7 of the Placerville Municipal Code, Health and Sanitation, adding Chapter 17, Private Sewer Lateral Ordinance to the City Code. That concludes staff's report. Happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you, Pierre. That was a mouthful. Questions from the council? Okay, we'll open public comment for this item then.
Hello, I'm a homeowner. My name's Jan Williams. Thank you for this opportunity to comment on the private sewer lateral issue. I'm going to read half of our 13 issues, and then John will read the other half. Please schedule another workshop to openly discuss the issues presented below. We need more interactions and discussion time for all the many issues involved before this ordinance is passed. We're concerned that a number of Placerville's senior citizens could be priced out of their homes due to mandated costs associated with this ordinance, raising the same issues as Prop 13 years ago. Is this going to lead to another class action lawsuit over the same similar principles? And what cost are we talking about? I know each situation is different. How many thousands of dollars would it take to fix a force main 400-foot private sewer lateral with, for example, 4 properties on it? I have no idea. The city recently raised their permit fees substantially when knowing full well that this fee-generating proposal was just around the corner. I'm suggesting that this is just another tax on us to fulfill the requirements of the city to maintain their sewer system without actually calling this a tax. I see in your letter to the Regional Water Quality Control Board that Measure H&L funds will pay for your capital improvement projects. And thank you, Rebecca, for all your work on that. Did you receive federal infrastructure funding or state storm funds? And why can't any of these funds help with paying for the private sewer laterals? I read online that there are cities which are using their public funds for private sewer laterals, saying that the downstream contamination the private sewer laterals may cause is a public issue, not a private issue. Therefore, public funds can be used to pay for private sewer lateral issues. There are inconsistencies with this new ordinance and the city code, all of which should be addressed when we have more than 3 minutes to address our issues. As discussed above, please schedule another town hall workshop to discuss these issues and others presented tonight. In the frequently asked questions, there's a mention of an appeal process, but it is not delineated in the ordinance. An appeal process should be inserted into this new ordinance. Add a new Roman numeral section 5 and renumber the effective date to Roman numeral 6. Spell out that one has only 10 days to file a written appeal with the city clerk on a form specified by the city and include a copy of that form. We suggest that a 30-day time frame for filing an appeal replace the 10-day time frame. Briefly include that the appeal process includes mediation and an administrative hearing. This should calm some of the concerns of a costly court trial on any issues wherein the homeowner disagrees with the city on enforcement. The original establishment of the private sewer laterals was based on what thinking by the city? Why were these allowed in the first place? Didn't the city install these private sewer laterals? Oh gosh. If not, why did the city allow licensed contractors to install them? So I guess I can't finish, but my minutes are up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jan.
I'm the other half of Jan and John. She left off about the establishment of PSLs. Why did the city allow licensed contractors to install these? And when these PSLs were installed, the installation met the same standards as the city installed sewer. So why didn't the city incorporate them into the city sewer system? Did the city not have sufficient funds to install the PSLs and wanted the tax dollars from new home construction, so they authorized the private contractors to do the work, city work for them? If the city is willing to acquire a PSL as part of the sewer system, I suspect that many of us would be willing to negotiate that possibility. We feel that there should be an exemption in the PSL ordinance for those PSLs that have no probability of causing contamination within 200 feet of the surface waters defined as a river, creek, or stream. I pulled that 200 feet out of the settlement agreement that you were talking about, Pierre. Joint and several responsibility, especially financial responsibility, bears more discussion. How do you justify forcing a homeowner to pay for the actions of their neighbor? Once a sewer revision takes place, the financial clock starts ticking. Many Placerville senior citizens are on pensions and have limited discretionary spending. To place such a burden on them is unconscionable and likely illegal. Since there will be a lien on their property, you need to find a way to suspend any interest on these costs instead of 10% compounded annually that the city code specifies, until that individual person decides that some action where they will be financially liable for those actions. So instead of spending legal monies on this, use that money to suspend interest payments for those affected by our neighbors' actions. Additionally, how does the owner who incurs these expenses retrieve the share of those costs from the deficient landowner, since a city lien is placed on that person's property? How much of the city's legal budget do you plan to spend on enforcing these regs? And how do you plan to spend on fighting class action legal battles you incur over this ordinance? What is your estimate legal cost on these issues? Is it a wise expenditure of tax dollars? Shouldn't you take time to flesh out the particulars on this proposal before you waste our tax dollars on this? The implementation of this ordinance is altogether another issue. When do you plan to discuss how you can implement the actual process? Have you taken action on the 144 problem PSLs? If not, why not? And if so, what have the results been? We, the public, should know all of these answers before jumping headlong into a potential morass of conflicting issues. You should start implementation of these 144 PSL problem areas and report back to the citizens what type of issues arose so we can alleviate those unforeseen issues. Revise the ordinance to reflect those issues and resubmit to the citizens to comment on. With the new sewer line replacements, the 20-year inspection renewal frequency should be increased to 40 to 50 years, which is closer to the 50-year lifespan of the new PVCs. I'll talk faster. Big question, how did you discern PSL waste from the city's waste? It's a big question. Did you perform dye tests? If not, then the smoke test is purely speculation. Doesn't show which water came downstream. How much came from Camino? We haven't seen that yet. A lot of these may have been answered at prior meetings, but I haven't seen them. That's why we're bringing these out. If you have brought those out, I missed them and I apologize. Notice by the Water Board to PSLs, instead of admitting the city's own sewer system had failures of its own. It's common knowledge that the superstorms of January caused the overflowed Placerville sewer system. We all understand that the need to fix that problem, but it's disingenuous to place most of that blame on PSL. We all know that it's a bigger issue than PSL. If citizens on a currently approved sewer line will not need to pay for an upgrading of their lines since they've been upgraded, why should the PSL property owners be billed separately for their fix? Isn't this unequal taxation, unequal application of law, or in this case, city ordinance? We hope to hear your answers to these and the question we raised tonight. And I just would say in closing that this is meant to try to open up more discussion. If you've had those discussions, Pierre, we missed them. If you put it out in a notice, we missed them. I know there were meetings after your committee got together and talked, the subcommittee. We didn't hear about any invitation to join those discussions. But we're here to let you know what our concerns are. And I have a copy of this for staff. Is this being recorded?
Thank you. Yes, it is. Thank you.
Good. Any questions?
No questions. I would just like to add to the public, when you have very lengthy comments, please email us ahead of time too. We're available to you before this meeting also. So I just wanted to mention that because I know some people ran out of time and things like that. So
Thank you. In this case, the ink is barely dry on this.
Okay. Thank you.
Before I leave, Chief, congratulations on your new sergeant and the 2 new hires. And Rebecca, thank you very much for all your work. I learned a lot here tonight. I just came to do a presentation. That's why we're here at the city.
Okay, other public comments?
Sue Rodman, Measure H, Measure L, and president of Placerville. And I, too, have a home with a sewer line that goes down and connects to the city sewer. And I consider that to be my property because it comes from my home to the city. And everyone else who has a home that has a sewer connection to the city, it's like your arm, or if you were an octopus, it would be a tentacle that goes down to connect. It doesn't belong to the city. So Measure L was specifically constructed and passed to help the city because it's all of us have the city. But your individual home has its own sewer connection, so it is your responsibility as a homeowner to take care of that. And this can go back all the way for public health. The biggest improvement in public health was not vaccinations. The biggest improvement to public health in the 1800s was when they finally figured out that they needed clean water to drink, and if they didn't have it, they had cholera outbreaks. And so they started cleaning up the water and making sure they had a clean water source. And if you contaminate that water, then you don't have a clean water source. And cholera outbreaks in the late 1800s were very common until they figured out that it wasn't the water itself that was the problem. It was the sewage that was contaminating the water and adding all of the microbes and bacteria and stuff that causes cholera outbreaks. So, and we need to be aware of that. That is why we need a lateral ordinance, so that your flush toilet doesn't contaminate the rest of the sewer system, the rest of the water system. And that's one of the reasons why Measure H and Measure L were designed, was to fix those kinds of things so that we don't have the problem of cross-contamination. Because until we started working on this, we had areas in this city where the water pipe and the sewer pipe were on top of each other, running in the same channel. That's a recipe for disaster. And the only thing that kept it from being a complete disaster was that the water system tends to be under pressure and the sewer system is gravity fed. So it didn't tend to get into the water system, but it could. And these sewer overflows are a real problem. And if you have a home, you're responsible for your roof, you're responsible for your telephone line, you're responsible for the electric line, actually, that comes to your home. Why would you not be responsible for the sewer that goes out of your home?
Thank you, Sue.
Kirk Smith. I guess I wanted to suggest to you that I like the idea that was proposed about having another workshop. Very appropriate, but I can't imagine you really want to do it, because at this stage, it's like that can that's been kicked down the road for about 6 years, and we all agree about the need and the objectives are appropriate. But what I would ask you to do is to add beef up the provisions related to an appeal. That's very important. Why? Because the staff has tremendous discretion to do all kinds of things, issue all kinds of directives, all kinds of policies. But what about the consumer? We're in a situation where it's a mess, frankly, because on our lateral sewer line, we've asked over the years for who is on this line. I've come before you several times in the last 3 or 4 years when it's been raised. And we've been given 2 different lists. The city doesn't know. There's discrepancies between the 2 lists. Just imagine if you've got a lateral sewer line that runs more than 1,000 linear feet with complex geology and having to dig a trench in 90 days. You know, finding a contractor. I asked Comforti folks to come in and give an estimate. They won't do it. There's only 3 contractors in the area equipped to do that. So you couldn't do it in 90 days. I'm also in the situation where what I can do is, unlike my colleagues on the rest of the line, whoever they are, go directly to the city. Because when our house was built in the 1950s, there were 2 EID reservoirs right in front. You can't put a sewer line straight over that into the city line. That's changed. So I have the ability to do that now, and we'll explore with the staff options to do that. But what about the others who are on this line? And what if they have to, several of them are on fixed incomes, what do they have to do if they've got to come up with huge sum of money? Finance, you know, that kind of digging would be great. So I think you need a provision in there that beefs up the appeal process to make sure there's a chance to go before the city council, because you can't have a cookie cutter solution for all these situations. They vary from several people, short distances, to, again, more than 1,000 feet. So I think it's 1,400 linear feet, according to Google Maps. So that's what I really think that is important to do, is to make sure those appeal processes are there. I'm glad you changed the provision about inspections to provide some process for security in that area. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
Good evening, Ryan Carter, City of Placerville. I'd just like to start by saying we're not in a hurry on this. Nothing in this settlement agreement we got tonight or this letter from the state requires us to pass this ordinance. The city offered that as a possibility. It was not asked for or required. So we have time. Let's take a step back. There's obviously a ton of concern from the community. The first thing I'd like to say is that it's 1998 was the last time we smoke tested. I think one possible solution is that we develop a systematic testing system through Measure H. We know where some of these troublesome areas are. Let's develop a systematic testing program and hold these people that are causing the problem accountable instead of overreaching obligation for every for every homeowner in the city. I think that might be a possibility. And the fact that we have spent next year it'll be $4 million in repairs, I think that the state would look at that as a huge step that would address the concerns of these letters and these requirements that the city is put under without having to pass this ordinance. One other thing, the resolution, and it was addressed in one of the written comments. The last item on this resolution states that at the last meeting, you held a duly noticed public hearing, found it exempt from CEQA, and waived the first reading. That needs to be taken out. If you do decide to pass this tonight, you need to amend that resolution and remove that last item, saying that you already did this at the last meeting. I think that was probably a mistake that got put in there. Second, thank you, staff, for adding the option to repair. That was going to be one of my comments. This amended ordinance actually made it worse because you removed the option for commercial businesses to repair their lines. So thank you for putting that back in there. We have modern technology to repair lines. We do not need to replace them in their entirety in every situation. So thank you for addressing that, and definitely add that provision that people are allowed to repair their line instead of having to replace it in every case. I agree with the appeals process needing to be added in. That's an important component that should be in the ordinance. And to finish, there's two things that this council gives lip service to regularly. One is affordable housing. This ordinance will immediately raise the price of every house in the city. This cost will be passed on to the purchasers or the sellers of a home. There are costs associated. This is going to raise the price of homes in the city. The other one is unfunded mandates. You know, we complain that the state puts these mandates on us and that they don't give us any money. Well, it's exactly what you guys are doing tonight. You're placing an unfunded mandate on every resident of the city. So I ask that you practice what you preach, don't raise the price of our housing, and don't place an unfunded mandate on every resident of the city. And let's take a step back. We don't need to pass this. It's not required. Send it back to a public meeting again. I missed the last one. I had to work. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Good evening, Ruth Carter, City of Placerville, real estate broker, and I would like to point out something in the staff report. Kim Beal is the Government Affairs Committee chair, and so she was working in an advisory capacity. The board of directors, to my knowledge, and I'm on the board of directors for El Dorado County Association of Realtors, did not pass anything supporting this ordinance. I just wanted to clarify that. We wouldn't be talking about this if it was a simple solution. If everybody, like wonderful Sue Broadman, who does so much for our community, and thank you, just had a direct line straight to the city sewer line, we wouldn't be having this conversation because it would be really easy to just make it a point of sale and rubber stamp that. We all know that that is not the case. I believe that implementing such an ordinance at this time would be impractical and unjust. Given the current state of the city sewer lines and connections, we are not ready to pass this ordinance. One of the primary issues is the lack of accurate mapping of the city sewer lines. As it stands, a significant portion of the sewer infrastructure in Placerville remains unmapped and may have many lines traverse multiple neighboring properties, ours included. I'm not going to go through 4 people's property to put in what you're going to require. That's not going to happen. That's not going to be legal. If I don't have full cooperation from neighbors, I can't do that. So requiring homeowners to inspect and replace sewer lines without a clear understanding of the entire system's layout can lead to unnecessary financial burdens and complications. Moreover, the potential necessity for homeowners to inspect and replace sewer lines that extend beyond their property boundaries raises complex legal and logistical issues. It may involve obtaining permissions and cooperation from multiple property owners, each with their own set of considerations and concerns. This process could be time-consuming, expensive, and may lead to disputes among neighbors, adding an extra layer of stress for homeowners already facing the prospect of complying with the ordinance. The proposed ordinance, as it stands, seems onerous and punitive, as I've said before, placing an undue burden on individual homeowners who may have limited control over the entirety of the sewer infrastructure and that serves their property. Instead, I propose that the city invest in comprehensive mapping and assessment of the entire sewer system before implementing such an ordinance. This approach would enable a more targeted and efficient strategy for addressing necessary repairs and upgrades without unfairly burdening homeowners. I propose that the City Council reevaluate the need for the sewer lateral point of sale ordinance and instead focus on enhancing public awareness of the existing policies and mapping our current sewers. We don't know where they are. Nobody in this room can tell me that they know where all of our sewer lines are. We have 3,400 connections. How many of them are actually mapped? In conclusion, I respectfully urge the City Council to reconsider the necessity of the proposed sewer lateral point of sale ordinance in light of the city's existing policies and their effectiveness in dealing with the sewer line repairs. By focusing on public education and continued infrastructure maintenance, we can ensure a more efficient and equitable approach to addressing the city's sewer system challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Anybody else? Okay, we will bring this back to the City Council. I want to ask staff first if they have some answers to the questions. Any questions? Well, I saw Pierre writing, so I was hoping that he was keeping track of those also.
Well, there's a number of comments and questions that really are not germane to the ordinances before you. For example, city raising its rates. It's kind of, the raising of the rates pays for the public system and not the private system. This was being considered as another tax. Staff's opinion, it's not a tax. It's basically meant to identify failing private systems and cause for their replacement and repair. There was another comment about using Measure H and Measure L funds. Why can't these funds be used? Those funds were passed by the voters for the improvement of the public system and not the private system. Inconsistencies, and the speaker wanted another workshop. And then there was some comments about an appeal process. An appeal process, I guess that's twofold. Typically, you would appeal a decision that's made by the city staff. In other words, if we see that the system is failing, it's going to be very difficult to appeal that there's an identification of a leaky system. So typically, when you're looking at the California Plumbing Code, we have a building appeals board that would consider any decision that's made by the building official. And so if somebody is challenging a decision of the building official or an interpretation of something in the plumbing code, they would appeal to that board. And also, we typically do have an appeal process for fines. So if there is a fine that's being levied on the property owner, they do have the ability to appeal the actual fine that's been levied against them for maybe some reason they feel the fine was inappropriately assessed on them. There was another comment about why did the city allow these to be installed? I think some of these were installed, could have been installed 50 to nearly 100 years ago. They're very, very old, and maybe they've been replaced without permit. And so, you know, the city doesn't have records of these, and so why did the city allow these? I just want to state that this is not atypical. When staff was researching for an ordinance, we looked at a lot of other cities. A lot of cities have similar ordinances. Mill Valley is an example. We looked at Bay Area cities, the East Bay Mud, which handles a significant amount of the sewer collection system in the East Bay area. They have the same situation there. I actually toured their wastewater treatment plant some years ago and spoke with a lot of the operators and the staff. They have the same situation there, as does the cities of El Cerrito, city of Richmond, the same thing. Those are very old cities, and there were a lot of private sewer pipes that were laid down, and so they have a similar ordinance. We use the city of Richmond and the East Bay Mud as our template, as a model ordinance. That was just a beginning point. I think I mentioned that probably at some of the last hearings. Let's see. There was another comment about an exception. An additional exception should be made to any sewer lateral, and hopefully I got this correctly. If that sewer lateral is placed is located 200 feet or more from from a surface water. And so staff would just reply that we're just not looking at a sanitary sewer spill, an SSO, but we're also looking at I&I, infiltration and inflow into pipes that may allow groundwater or stormwater to enter that pipe and then overburden our system. So it's not just that it enters surface water, but even if it doesn't enter a surface drainage system, it's still a health and safety hazard if raw sewage is spilling out into the environment. How will the city pay for enforcement? Well, just the city typically tries to work with the property owners in all of our enforcement cases. It's just cost of the city trying to maintain its current code and maintain that we have health is maintained in the city. I don't know if we can really quantify what the cost of that enforcement would be. And then there was a comment about the 40 to 50 years life of the new piping material. That was the impetus for us increasing the length of time that one would have to obtain a new or update their COLC is based on the piping material. So we originally, I think we had every 10 years. We had made a recommendation in our settlement agreement that we made that it would be 15 years, but we changed it to 20, and that was after numerous discussions with both some contractors and the city building officials saying that it's true. Those plastic pipes can last, 50, maybe even 100 years. However, in a long period of time, you could still have issues with roots or other things could happen to that pipe that we wouldn't want to extend that out to 40, 50 years. We all thought that 20 was a good period of time. Again, we had some speakers requesting another workshop. I guess staff isn't really opposed to a workshop, but staff isn't really sure what value that would add at this point, considering the amount of review, basically with a fine-tooth comb, I think this ordinance has received up to this point. Let's see, who on this line? City. There were some questions about the city does not know where these lines are. The city does maintain a booklet that has mapped, I think it's 82, I believe, around plus or minus 82 private sewers systems. That's not the individual systems, but that's where you have more than one property owner utilizing a common lateral that connects to the city system. So we've mapped those. It's not to say that there aren't others out there that are unknown, but I just would want to say that with our over 3,000 connections, this portion of the entirety of our system, mainly looking at the private side, is probably between 10 to 1% of the entire system. So you're looking at actually a small subset of all those that are out there. So it's not like it's a huge amount. There were some questions about we're not in a hurry. There were some comments made stating that the city is not in a hurry, the ordinance is not required. basically, the city council approved that settlement agreement back in 2017, authorizing that would be our course of action. So it is true, I think maybe in the last staff report, I said that it was the state requiring us to have an ordinance prepared. It's a little bit, I'll put a different spin on it. It's that we originally had that commitment in the settlement agreement, and then when we received our notice of violation for the sewer spills that happened during the storm events, where untreated sewage went into Hangtown Creek, that's where the city then reiterated its commitment to having a private sewer lateral ordinance in place. Let's see, what else do I have? Again, it was more comments on not having accurate mapping. I think the city's own sewer system is accurately mapped. There was a comment made that that's an onerous ordinance. It's staff's opinion that it's not onerous. I really don't know what else to comment on that. City must do the mapping first. Again, I'm not really sure, how we start mapping first. We have our booklet of the known private sewer lateral systems. And then there was a comment about the city should reconsider the point of sale provision. I think it's that provision that is probably the most proactive of all of our various hooks that we have that would trigger obtaining a COLC. And I think that was the end of the notes that I had taken from our speakers.
Great, thank you very
Any
much,
other
Pierre.
questions? I'm sure myself or Ms. Neves will be able to answer them.
Mona, were you going to say something?
I can respond to a couple of other comments regarding some of the legal implications.
Thank you, Mona.
So there was a comment about, will we be facing a class action lawsuit in adopting this ordinance? And first of all, I want to empathize. I understand that everything is relative, so perhaps to staff this doesn't feel onerous, but no one took pleasure in bringing this before you. We understand that this is a significant constraint and burden on affected property owners. Having said that, the state constitution confers on municipalities, including the city of Placerville, with broad police powers to enact regulations, ordinances, and resolutions that further the public health, safety, and welfare. And this ordinance falls within those powers. So first of all, we have the authority to enact this ordinance. Secondly, we do not face exposure to a lawsuit that would have any merit behind it with respect to a class action or otherwise in doing so, because one, of that authority, and secondly, because the purpose and intent of this is to prevent I&I and to prevent catastrophic health and safety issues happening from leaks and spills into our creeks and our waterways and so on and so forth. Again, the purpose of this ordinance is to require repairs or replacement and nothing more. There's another question about, could this be considered an unlawful tax? There is no fee or charge or tax or assessment being levied by virtue of this ordinance. The only instance in where there would be a cost on a property owner is if the city had to incur its own charges in enforcement or in conducting the repair work and charging the property owner for it. So that's cost recovery. And in any event, both Proposition 26 and Proposition 218 exempt any kind of payment that a property owner is getting some special benefit or privilege for, and that would be it. For example, repair or recovery. There's also a comment about, well, how can I access my neighbor's property? That's unlawful. I can't provide legal advice to individuals and the public, but what I will say is that there are a number of different options for private property owners. They can look to see if there's recorded easements that allow them to access these for maintenance. There could be other types of agreements, and if neither, there's prescriptive rights too to remedy this. The analogy that I use, again, I know this is frustrating, but imagine if you had a fence that you shared with a property owner, and as a result of the storms, it was blown down. And you want to put the fence back up, but your neighbor doesn't want you to and is not going to pay for it. You have the right to have that fence put back up. Unfortunately, you do have to go to court to recover their half of it, but that's available to you. So again, I want to be very transparent. That is a possible outcome, that there's going to be disagreements between private property owners. But that's why this ordinance specifically calls out and encourages the neighbors to talk and to enter into private maintenance agreements if they so choose in advance. But it is a potential that if there's not an agreement, that they have to sue their neighbor.
Thank you, Mona. Appreciate all those explanations. All right, we will bring this back to the City Council. Who wants to kick this off? Go ahead, John. Councilmember Clarici.
Hi there. He wants. I'm
sorry.
We're done with public.
Public comment is closed. I'm sorry.
No.
No, we don't do a back and forth. I'm sorry.
As I said, I was surprised that we were still dealing with this when I was voted off the island 4+ years ago. This was a topic, and now I come back and it's still a topic. Nobody wakes up in the morning and tries to figure out a way to piss off people in this town. Okay, that doesn't happen. We respond to things. We were sued. I was around when we got sued, and this doesn't go away. To sit there and say, well, it's really just this, or it's really just that. This doesn't go away. There's these outfits that sue people for a living. That's how they get their fees. That's how they fund their organizations. They are waiting for a spill. They're waiting for a bad thing to happen, and then they come, and then everybody gets to pay for that. We all got to pay for the 2 payoffs to the fish guy. Actually, I think the fish one got resolved, but the first one didn't. That was the one that spawned all this. No pun intended. There's no good time to do this. The economy's bad. The economy's good. Real estate is good. Real estate is bad. There'll never be a good time to solve this problem. I was around for the sewer rate hike discussions, and because, bless their hearts, city councils prior to us had said, oh, well, we can't do it today. We can't do this today. We can't get our rates right today because it's a recession, or things are good, or we don't want to burden people with stuff. There's never a good time to take these kinds of actions. I don't think this will have any impact on property values at all. I sold my mother's house in Crockett in Contra Costa County, which is serviced by the East Bay Municipal Utilities District. When we sold the house, we got this thing and said, oh, by the way, in order to close your sale, you have to fix the sewer line going out. It was terracotta pipes and it was broken. And as long as my mother lived there, it was fine. There was just one person, it was inadequate. But when we had Thanksgiving, oof. And we fixed it, and it came out of the proceeds of the sale. 90-something% of the connections aren't some mystery thing out there that you can't figure out. If you can see the house and you're on the road, the pipe goes to the sewer, which is almost certainly going to be in the road in almost all the cases. So 90%, if not more, of the homes that this would apply to, they're going to, if we pass it, you're going to sell your house, it's going to go into escrow, you're going to get this thing, you're going to fix the problem, you'll pay for it from the proceeds of the escrow, and that's how it'll get fixed. I'm 2 months away from 65, so I will now be in this category of old folks, and I will soon be on a fixed income. I'm sorry, there's no good way. There is no good way to have this discussion. I think we need to solve this issue now. We give the city a thing to do, and for most of the properties in town. Oh, and by the way, when we sold the house and we found out that I think it was like $2,500 to fix. This was a number of years ago now. It's like $2,500 to fix the sewer line out to the main sewer line. I didn't go get to raise the price of the house. It didn't go up. It didn't inflate the price of my mother's home. The 4 of us got to split $2,500 less. I think we should, I endorse this. I think the folks did a good job trying to split babies in half and come back with a reasonable solution. One of the reasons why you can't have a 50-year horizon is because around here, especially, the earth can shift, a plastic pipe breaks, Plastic pipes sometimes get infiltration. They get roots in them. You see that happen at joints and stuff. If the pipe is long enough, you'll see that happen. If we start to say, well, oh, it's plastic pipe, it's magic, you have to go out to some long date, you'll have problems with those pipes. 20 years is a good horizon. I think that's a good compromise. I endorse the work of my colleagues here. Like I said, this is never a good time. There's never a good time. We might as well do it today, or a month from today, I guess, actually, and then do this. Thank you.
Councilmember Gottberg.
Yeah, so, I am in favor of a private sewer lateral ordinance, but I do have an issue with the trigger regarding property sales. There's still 6 other triggers if that's removed. It's not like there are no triggers triggering this and requiring this. If people pull building permits, they put in, say, a new bathroom, they put in a new kitchen where they're adding to the sewer system. My big concern really is that I think on the common sewer laterals where they're shared with multiple parties, the first person on every one of those lines that decides to sell their house is either going to have to pay for the entirety of everybody's line, or they're going to have to civilly litigate against their neighbors and have that lawsuit resolved before they can sell their house. And to me, that's a significant impact that I'm just not okay with putting on our residents.
What is your solution, just so I understand?
My solution is to remove item number 1 on page 10 of before completing a title transfer through the sale associated with the parcel containing any structure not already having a valid COLA. So I would remove that one item from our ordinance and leave the rest of the ordinance as is.
I have a question for the council person. What happens if a property doesn't trigger any of the other 5? And it has a deficient sewer line? What happens then?
A property could never be sold too. So I mean.
Well, then that's fine as well. But if there's a violation, then you have the other triggers.
Yeah.
But if they don't do the 5 and you don't have a sale trigger, then you're going to let folks sell things with bad sewer lines.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Yarborough.
Okay, we're going to start with this one. So first off, I actually want to thank staff for part of the ad hoc committee. It was a great meeting. We did a lot of stuff on here. Although one of the last things I said when we left is I think we have a really good start here, but I still think we have some other things that need to be resolved. As a part with the sale, I do understand that in circumstances, basically, especially when you are on one of those properties that do not have mapped sewer systems. Now, I took a look at the map book. I actually requested it, and it was sent to me, and I went through it quite a bit. And yes, there is some good mapping on it, but there is also a lot of missing items on there. I still think personally we may not end up with class action lawsuits, but we may end up with litigation in regarding to those issues. Just because of the fact that if you have several people in an area that have no mapping of their sewer lines and they go to do this upon a sale and then they basically stop at the property line or go as far as they can to reach the either common line or the city line, which can be hundreds of yards, you're talking, that's a lot of money. We're not talking $250, $300 to map from the house to the middle of the street, which maybe be 50 feet. And then you're also talking about bringing in companies that have specialized equipment for that, and that's thousands of dollars. Just for a perfect instance, my wife and I own a salon in Cameron Park. We just had a sewer line issue there, and we got a quote of videoing the sewer system for $1,500. Okay, and that was 150 feet. So it's expensive. It can be expensive. On top of that, I think we need to start using Measure H and Measure L, not particularly to fix private sewer lines, but maybe to help the city get some of these areas that need to be mapped. I can point out on certain mapping, on some of the maps of areas that there's no lines. There's no green lines for showing a line. There's no orange lines showing for a line. There's no red lines going from a house connecting to the green lines or the orange lines. And there are spots that are blank. One of the discussions that I've had, not only with our city manager, but with several constituents out in our community is, well, what if my sewer line goes across 3 different lots and nobody lives on them? They're just blank. So am I responsible for those hundreds of yards of sewer line? And are they even mapped? So that's an issue. I mean, I'm in agreement with Nicole when it comes to these kind of instances. Now, is it uncommon to video your sewer line when you do a sale or you do a purchase? No, it's not uncommon. It happens all the time. When I was a real estate agent, it was done on every deal that I did. Back then it was $150, and most of the time it was from the house to the center of the street, and it was fairly easy to do. You're running 50, 60 feet, and that's about it. Any good agent was going to say, we need to do this, okay? But when you get into even our city area, which I consider some areas of it being rural, you're getting into possibly a lot of lines. And then on top of that, with the areas that we don't map, how do we know that that common lateral or whatever several homes are hooked up to wasn't put in by the city at one point in time? Because we don't have all that information. Is it buried in a box somewhere? Do we know? Do we not know? Was it never recorded? I mean, that's kind of falls in with the city. I mean, there's just a lot of things here. I think we have a really good start on this. Not sure it's quite finished yet. I understand that the city does have a requirement by a lawsuit, which it was nice to see this. I wish we would have known this when we first got started with all of this. This would have made things a little bit different in perspective for me. But yeah, at this point, I think we got a good start, and I just think we need to go further.
So we sat in 2 meetings. We talked about it all. So what are your next steps that you want to go forward with?
That's the hard part. I'm trying to figure that out. Yeah. Honestly, I also think that this should be tabled until Mayor Saragosa is here, because I know he had a lot of concerns also. I know we have enough here as a quorum that we can vote on this tonight, but personally, I think he should be a part of this. Do I have a solution right at this moment? Other than taking out number 1, I do not have a solution for the rest of it. I mean, a suggestion with H&L to map everything out. I think the city has some responsibility to start really figuring out where some of this stuff is so we can be a little more accurate on this. Am I in disagreement that, yeah, you should be mapping your sewer line and checking it as a homeowner? No, you should be looking at that. But at the same time, as a city, can we start requiring people to map thousands of feet like Kirk has? You know, I mean, if he's got over 1,000 feet of line, dude, we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. So to make it a point of sale, I don't think that's right. The rest of it, I agree with.
So what I think I'm hearing is you think that H&L should pay for the private lines.
No, I don't think H&L should be paying for the private lines at all. I think H&L should be helping the city to finish mapping out so we can figure out where things are at. Because we do have a lot that at least that I have seen, that we don't know about. So that's going to help in some point. You know, I think there's a little bit of more research that needs to be done on here. Like I said, the point of sale part I would want to take out at this point. Just because of the fact that there could be some extreme costs there, especially with the lawsuits. And then at that point, are we going to is the city going to end up being in a lawsuit with somebody because, hey, look, now I've got to pay for all of this, and how do I know that this particular line that wasn't mapped that we now found was, not part of the city at one point in time, 70, 80, 100 years ago? So yeah, I just think the point of sale part, we could be doing some damage to a lot of people. I do know that, Pierre mentioned getting with Kelly Beal of the El Dorado County Realtors Association, who I reached out also to, and that was to get a disclosure basically put together to notify people that are purchasing properties when they get into contract that, hey, look, the sewer system is part of your responsibility, so it is highly recommended that you take a look at it before you purchase or close a deal. Whether that falls on a seller or a buyer, that's going to be a negotiation between the realtors when it comes up to a point of transaction and a point of sale. So, yeah, I just think we have a little bit more work to do. And no, I do not think that sitting in the 2 meetings that we did was a waste of time. I think we got some really good stuff accomplished. But at the same time, I still think we need a little bit more work.
I'm just trying to understand exactly what that work is. And so
yeah, I know.
What I'm hearing is you're saying that we need to do the mapping.
Yeah, no, definitely the city needs to figure out how to do that. I think that's going to help a lot with the I&I issue, and it may also show, some of the fact that, hey, where is all this stuff coming from, and we may end up finding things that, is part of the city system that we don't know about.
Yeah, how are we going to determine what is the city's? We're going to look at something and said it was never mapped, and how are we going to decide?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of where we're going to run into some problems with people, making this a point of sale, because they're going to go, okay, well, how do we know this? This wasn't mapped, so prove it. The city didn't put it in, or prove that it was privately put in. I think we may end up with some problems there too. I just think there's some holes, and we need to plug some of those holes. So until we can plug those holes, I think eliminating the point of sale part would make this a little bit easier to start with, and then we can always, I don't know, can we add it back in? Is that possible?
You'll never add it back in.
Never add it back in.
You'll never add it back in. I don't want to spend H&L money trying to figure out which of the private sewer laterals that's out there. I don't understand it because I don't know where it goes after that. So even if you map them all out, we'll just have more people here that will know about this thing. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to, well, you don't have to do anything. I guess we don't have to do anything. Because at the end of the day, you can choose to do nothing because basically we will pass, if we take out one, then we pass an ordinance that has a hole in it a mile wide. Because most of the challenges are not going to be these people that have these common sewer laterals. 90% of the transactions are going to be people that can see the sewer from their home. And I think this is getting to be, that whole thing about sacrificing good on the altar of perfection. I don't want to spend any money trying to map. I think that I don't, because once again, I don't understand the end. So you discover, oh, there's another one over there, and there's one over there, and there's one out there. There are more of them. Then what are you going to do?
Okay, so at that point, then you've got somebody who's in an area that isn't mapped, and they map to the end of their property line and go, hey, I mapped my sewer to my property line, here you go.
Yeah. Well, but if it doesn't...
Then that needs to be in the ordinance then. Then you only need to map to your property line.
I suggested that maybe something like that be done for this, the odd notion that you could have a piece of property and you want to sell it, and you're at the very top of the lateral tree, and you take it to the edge of your property. But at least you've taken it to the edge of your property. And then eventually, it's just like the whole idea of doing a point of sale is over decades, you eventually get, all the houses eventually turn over.
Yeah.
And so eventually you'll have newish or new connections into the city sewer system. So maybe what you do is you say, it'd be nice if we had like a generic tree,
right?
Sewer lateral tree. But the point is this, I think everybody can imagine this. So maybe if you're up at the top of it and there's like 3 segments below you, you do your bit to the connection.
And you sell your property.
And you sell your property. And you've said, I've done my due diligence, then the next piece, and the next piece, and the next piece. And maybe that lower piece never gets done, but then there's the giant sewage spill, and then we'll send Nick or his whoever follows him out there to fix it.
I know, it's nothing, none of this is a perfect solution, unfortunately.
No. I just don't know that if you don't have the point of sale thing in there, then you don't have an ordinance. You've got a lot of words on a piece of paper, and then there's some other these things that have. But we already go after the people that have sewage spills. We can do that. We don't need an ordinance to do something we're already doing.
Right, yeah. Sewage spill happens, that's definitely the city. It's going to get reported to the city.
Yeah, it's going to,
and everybody's going to have to deal with it.
So I'm trying to just think of, I don't want to I don't want to cost anybody any more money. But on the other hand, we have a real problem and we need to have a real solution to the problem.
Yeah, and I'm not in disagreement with that. So I think maybe we need to add a provision in here that mapping to a property line. And once you map to the property line, then point of sale makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, my concern again is the litigation with neighbors and the entirety of a common line. So if we say that you only have to map and fix the section of your common line that's on your property, I'm then okay with this.
Okay.
Now tell us why we're wrong, Cleve.
Can I just ask, does that,
Tell us why this is the worst idea you've ever heard.
does that apply to the situation where it's not a common lateral, but a private lateral that crosses more than one property?
Yeah, so you have a single shot. That's kind of like.
Are you then only required to go to your property line?
I think if it's your, I mean, from my perspective, if you're the only connection, then you would be responsible for that whole line, even if it goes through other people's property. Yeah. My concern is when there's multiple connections into a single line.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
So in my mind, it would only be the common sewer lateral lines where we would have the portion related to you stop at your property boundary, and nobody else would have that who's on an individual line. If that's, I'll see if our attorneys and stuff say that's okay.
Sorry, Mona.
Mona, it's up to you now.
In order to make that change and read it into the record, can we have a short recess to actually draft language, read it into you, and then I would suggest actually opening up the public comment for that section, and then we could proceed. Is that okay?
Okay.
Is 15 minutes enough?
Yes.
Okay, let's take a 15-minute break.
I sometimes sound like I'm scolding people. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to.
No, I don't.
I know, yeah, you're a tough guy. I know that, but I'm just saying.
If we were at a doctor's.
Okay, let's bring this meeting back to order. We are on 10.1. We are going to discuss revisions. Do you want me to just read these revisions, or?
Is it okay, Mona does that?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure. I'll go ahead and read the language change that's proposed pursuant to some of the discussions, and then staff will actually explain the practicality to reflect it. There was one thing that staff came up with while we were drafting this that you should be aware of, and then we can open it up to the public for comments. So the first change is changed to the definition of common sewer lateral. That language will now read that definition of common sewer lateral is that part of the private sewer lateral that serves more than one property. The term common sewer lateral includes but is not limited to the common building sewer. So what we took out of that definition language is the language that said that you're jointly and severally liable for the common sewer lateral. The next section that is being revised is section 7-17-5B. And we're proposing to replace it with the following. Where it has been determined that a private sewer lateral exists on two or more adjoining lots, each property owner utilizing the private common building sewer lateral shall be responsible for their portion of the common sewer lateral and those parts described in section 7-17-681, or make direct connection to the public sewer system in accordance with the California Plumbing Code and all applicable provisions of the Placerville Municipal Code. So basically, someone who's on a common sewer lateral has two options. Either they can go ahead and make a direct connection to the city's public sewer connection, or they're going to be responsible for their portion. The cross-reference to that other section that says your portion and that other part that we just described is really very rare occurrence, but it might exist, where you have a common sewer lateral that traverses multiple properties, but it could go into another property owner's property that is not served by the common lateral. And in those instances, that portion, everyone's responsible for. So that's the piece that we wanted to make sure is covered.
Very unique circumstance, but we definitely think it could happen, so.
The next section is a revision to 7-17-5B1. Now that will read, each property owner will be responsible for the maintenance, repair, or replacement of their portion of a common sewer lateral building sewer from their individual building drain cleanouts to the public sewer connection. And then the final one, briefly touched upon it, 7-17-6A1. It's going to be revised to now read, the parties to a common sewer lateral are responsible for the portion of the private sewer lateral on their property and shall obtain a COLC in accordance with section 7-17-7 to the extent that a portion of a common sewer lateral is on a property that is not being directly served by the common sewer lateral. All benefited private properties on the common sewer lateral shall be jointly and severally responsible for repair, replacement, and associated fees, costs, and fines.
Okay, questions, comments from the council?
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think it addresses what we had discussed and, at least my request.
Okay, we will open up public comment for the proposed revisions to the PSL ordinance.
So this modification to the ordinance is based upon what I'll call facts not in evidence. The only evidence that's been presented is circumstantial, that by a smoke test back in '98, that the PSLs, who are now the scapegoat group for the problems that the city's had with their whole sewer system, are being left holding the bag for a lot of the repairs. And I say that because they're being excluded from any of the funding that comes under the two H&L, I think they are, provisions that would allow that funding to be used for the city system. If the city approved a PSL to the same standards that they did the city's own mains, that's part of the city system. In other cities, you talk about basing your studies on what other cities do. Other cities agree that that's what goes on. As a matter of fact, they go so far as to do something that, like Sac City does, with climate issues, with the grasses and absorbing a lot of water. Southern Cal does this too. What they give a stipend, they'll give a certain amount of money to the property owners to abate using too much water so they can conserve water. That's the same kind of thing that happens, I think it's at the city of Richmond, or maybe it's Berkeley. I'm trying to remember which of the cities I was researching that said this. They provide a $1,500 allotment toward taking care of that provision to have your sewer system upgraded. Could some of the funding that we've got coming in, could that help? I mean, there's a lot of issues that could be addressed for folks that cannot afford it. We could probably afford it. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just saying there's a lot of people that are going to get screwed on this. And I'm here to say I'm concerned about them because it's just not right. It reminds me of Prop 13. I was live and kicking back then, as most of you were. And I saw retired people losing their houses because they were being taxed out of it. And that's why I call this another name for a tax, to have them foot the bill for taking care of repairs that whoever has that sewer system, if it's tied to the main sewer system, that's part of the sewer system, whether you like it or not. You can call it whatever you want, make a declaration, this is the way it is. That doesn't mean that's fact. Again, you're assuming facts, not in evidence. How much contaminated water comes from outside the city, downhill through the city, and has been tested, and they're trying to put the blame on us? I would suggest maybe looking at what the water board, what they said we've tested. Where did they test it? What did they find? How much of that water was tested upstream of Placerville city limits to see if that was contaminated coming down into the city? Simple questions. It's the kind of stuff we do all the time. We're working on Caples Creek up in the El Dorado after the Caldor fire. We're doing extensive work up there with Trout Unlimited. That's, our scientists are doing that. They're going in and looking at what is actually happening and what the results are, and I know my time's up. Thank you.
Good evening, Kirk Smith. Well, before, I felt like it was inevitable and we were stuck, and please add a provision related to an appeal process. But after listening to you, I'm not very confident at all. For one thing, when Mr. Clerici says that these lines are all mapped out very well, not true. I told you that there's several times over the last several years when these proposals were presented that a chart was given for our sewer line. And on 2 different occasions, it was different. I asked the staff at the workshop about it, and one explanation is we're not sure. So please don't tell me that it's certain, because even if you only have 1 or 10%, if you happen to be in that small category, it's significant. When Mr. Yarborough says, and he volunteers an appropriate guess, that it might be several thousand for us on our sewer line for 1,000 plus feet, no, just ask the staff, how much did it cost them to dig up Main Street for more than 1,400 linear feet? And that's flat ground. You're talking about ground that hasn't been touched before. That's not flat at all. And the geography and the geology changes substantially. There's different kinds of rock formations, granite, Mariposa slate, all kinds of things. One plumber gave me an estimate of $250,000. And then the qualifier for that is that's not a project he's ever done anything on that scale. There's only 3 construction companies that would do it, Vuurkamp, and you know the rest. But they wouldn't, it's big firms that would do it, like Vicini. The third one I'd never heard of before. So it's very expensive. I have 2 houses that are towards the top, just to give you visualization. It's almost towards the end where you see that sign that says 15 miles per hour as you turn around to the other end. And the other goes down to the Big Cut Road. That's a lot of distance. Now, it's terribly expensive. And then you tell me that I've got 90 days to cure the problem. And I can't form an agreement. And it's not just me that's told you this. Frenchie and Mark Herr were there before, and they told you the same thing. We don't have a list of all the people that are on our list, which is not hard to understand because these things happened before any of you were here. Back in the 60s and the 50s, it was very casual. So that's the problem. And when you talk about an appeal procedure, sorry, there isn't one. What are you talking about, an appeal? If you go before the Planning Commission and there is an appeal process that goes to you, and you've got specific standards. But when it comes to what's...
Thank you, Kirk.
Oh, bingo, time's up. You need to do some more work, please.
Well, we reopen this for the comments of the revisions. If anyone has further comments on the revisions.
I think these make an improvement. It makes it more clear to me, at least, that the way I read this is I'm responsible from my house to the main line that belongs to the city, and that's all. And if it crossed somebody else's property, I'm still responsible to my property line. And then they're responsible from their property line down. Is that correct reading?
Staff.
Do you want to take comments?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll answer the questions afterwards.
Okay, because that's what I get is that you're responsible from your individual building drain cleanouts to the public sewer connection. And if that public sewer connection happens to goes through somebody else's property, then there's a little more difference there, but it still seems to me like this limits it to my property line is what I'm responsible for. And I think that's an improvement. I think this is better.
Thank you, Sue.
Ruth Carter again, City of Placerville. So the last item, this common sewer lateral shall be jointly and severally responsible for repair, replacement, and associated fees, costs, and fines. We're on a common line. We have almost 3 acres in Placerville, and until they replaced the Hawking Street sewer pipe, nobody in the city knew where any of those properties were tied into the sewer line. They just kept getting flushed on. So they came knocking on my door. Hey, what's going on? Oh, we have a septic pump. Oh, we have 2 septic pumps actually on our property because we live below grade. And we don't know where our sewer lines go because we had an inspection on our equipment when we bought our house. But there's not a good way to sewer scope what we had going on. So come to find out that there's multiple houses and we don't know how many houses are on this common shared line. If my neighbor goes and runs over the sewer line or digs it up, am I now responsible, jointly and severally responsible to repair the common line that is now connecting to the sewer line with the city? Is that my understanding? So that was one of the questions that doesn't seem fair.
Thank you, Ruth. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close public comment. Can we get answers to those questions first? I'm not sure which staff member to point at.
I'll take the first shot, and then
Okay.
Staff can fill in my gaps. So there's a distinction between a private sewer lateral and a common sewer lateral. For private sewer laterals that only serve an individual property, the property owner is responsible for the whole kit and caboodle until connection. For the common sewer laterals, this is the one that we made changes to. And now you're only responsible for that portion that's on your property, plus the portion that is on some third party's property that is not being served by the common sewer lateral, and only that piece is jointly and severally, are all the properties benefited by the common sewer lateral jointly and severally liable for. So Ms. Carter raised the example of what happens if my house is being served by a common sewer lateral and one of my neighbors is doing some digging or causes some damage to it, to the portion of the common sewer lateral on his or her property, on the neighbor's property. The neighbor would be responsible for that portion, not Ms. Carter, because the neighbor that's being also served by the common sewer lateral caused the damage and it's on their property.
Great. Thank you, Mona.
So basically, what we've tried to do here is say you're only responsible for that portion of a line, whether it's common or private, that's on your property, with that small exception. If you're the last one, your private property extends all the way out to the main in the street. But that's true for private lines also. And then that one exception, which I think this is probably going to be a very minor few, if we have any, where you have the common sewer laterals, but somewhere along that common sewer lateral, it strays out into some private property that is not part of it, does not benefit from it. In that case, that section is responsible of all of them that are on the common sewer lateral.
Okay.
So,
thank you. Okay, council. Are we satisfied? Do we want to make more changes? Do we have a motion?
I'm good with it. I might need some help to make a motion if somebody else wants to try to formulate that.
I always refer to our city attorney.
Yes, what are, help us with the.
Let me try.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay,
Because we have the
Councilmember
or
Clarici.
repair section as well that needs to change.
Right.
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
just an
There's-
addition.
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Or-
one more, I
or
think.
repair.
It was, Mr. Carter that brought up the issue that the date on the front of the ordinance for introduction says October 24th. That should be today's date.
Okay.
Changed to today. Add repair?
Or repair.
Add or repair to a specific thing, or is that just?
It is specific, yeah, it's, yeah, it is section 717.7,
7,
A,
7, A,
3, and 4.
3 and 4. So 717A, 3 and 4. Okay. And then we have these revisions that were just provided, and
Right.
then the actual thing that was presented.
And the CEQA document.
And
The notice of exemption.
the notice of exemption. Write it down.
Well,
Okay,
that,
while John's writing that down, I just want to thank staff for jumping in and trying to help us fix this. We know this is not a perfect solution to a very hard problem, but at least we're trying to get this to be as fair and possible for everybody. I know not everybody's going to like it. I have talked to both sides of constituents out in the public. Some like it, some don't like it. Some it makes sense to, and some don't understand it. So hopefully this helps. And, this can always, the public can always come back to the city and say, hey, look, we have a bigger problem. And if that is the, issue, the city council is going to be willing to try and figure it out. So anyway, I will let John.
Councilmember Clarici, there's one other revision. Mr. Carter brought this up, the last recital. The date needs to be amended to reflect today's date. So rather than October 24th. Okay, thank you.
I'd make a motion to adopt the staff recommendation with the following. Date of the last resolution is changed to today's date. Add or repair, the phrase, or repair, to 7-17A, 3, and 4. And the revisions that were provided to us, the proposed revisions to PSL ordinance and the thing here, and the notice of exemption. Is that that's it? Okay, that's my motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Please, somebody second that.
I'll second.
Okay. Regina, can we have roll call?
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
passes.
Thank you for everyone for working through that one. Okay, we will move to number 11, public hearings. Consider conducting a public hearing for related actions associated with creating the City of Placerville Community Facilities District, number 2023-1, for Cottonwood Park Phases 4 and 6, maintenance and services. Ms. Neves.
Good evening. This is going to be outright boring compared to the last item. Thank you for the opportunity to present this item to you and to the public this evening. The item before you is to consider conducting a public hearing for related actions associated with creating the City of Placerville Community Facilities District 2023-1, which will serve as the mechanism for supporting maintenance and services as part of Cottonwood Park Phases 4 and 6. As you're aware, over the last several months, the city's been working with the property owners of Cottonwood Park Plan Development, and here this evening we have, very patiently waiting, thank you, Mike Von Quillick, who is the representative of William Homes, that are the owner-builders of Cottonwood. Their legal entity is WH Placerville 39 LLC. However, as you're aware, we've been working with the previous property owner and the current property owner. On September 12th, 2023, City Council approved the final map, which created a new 39-lot subdivision in the city. The property and project then closed escrow from the then owner-builder DLLM LP to the current home builder, which is WH Placerville 39 LLC, or Williams Homes. On October 16th, 2023 is when that escrow closed. Following that close of the escrow, the property owner completed a supplemental tax bond with the county, and the final map was recorded last week on November 9th. Additionally, as discussed at the September 12th City Council meeting, a notice of restriction will be subsequently recorded to prohibit the sale of individual lots until the creation and establishment of a community facilities district has been completed as required by the conditions of approval, specifically conditions 27, 28, and 70 for the project. On September 26th, City Council adopted a resolution of intention to establish community facilities district for Cottonwood Park Phases 4 and 6 of the subdivision. Thank you, Dave. Following City Council's action of the September 26th, the CFD boundary map was recorded and a ballot was provided to the new property owner, WH Placerville 39 LLC, and received by the city clerk. A copy of the ballot is included as part of the agenda item in this packet. Next slide, please. Perfect. The purpose of this public hearing is to serve as the next step in creating a community facilities district for the intention of funding maintenance and services to the new subdivision. It allows the creation of a special tax that is applicable to the property owners within the CFD boundaries. These future property owners will receive a direct benefit of the district's funding of maintenance and services to the subdivision and proportionate share of the overall Cottonwood Park plan development, as outlined and described in detail in the special tax report, inclusive of the rate and method apportionment attached under this item. The maintenance and service items will fund the city-owned infrastructure within the new city right-of-way, including water, sewer, and storm systems, as well as new roads, which will alleviate the burden of adding new infrastructure as an asset to then be funded by other existing mechanisms, such as Measure H or L, or the city's Road Maintenance Repair Act, SB1, limited funding sources for maintenance. The CFD will also provide a proportionate share to service and maintain Duffy Park, which was part of the overall larger plan development for Cottonwood Park. In short, the recommended actions for this evening include conducting the public hearing, adopting a resolution establishing the formation of the Community Facilities District, adopting a resolution calling for a special election for the Community Facilities District. City Clerk will announce the results of said election with the ballot received, adopt a resolution declaring results of said special election, and directing the recording of the special tax lien. Waive the first reading and introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council authorizing the levy of special taxes in the Community Facilities District. That concludes staff's reports, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And if you so pleases, Madam Vice Mayor, would you please commence with conducting the public hearing?
Okay. I have a scripted part. This is the time and place for the public hearing for the City of Placerville Community Facilities District Number 2023-1, Cottonwood Park Maintenance and Services. The hearing is to inquire into the formation of the district and levy of special taxes for citywide maintenance services within or adjacent to the district. Before I formally open the hearing, are there any property owners or registered voters in the proposed district who wish to file written protests? If so, they must be filed with the city clerk now. I'm pausing to see if there are any written protests.
Apparently not.
No. Okay. The hearing is now open. We will first have presentations by staff about the formation of the district. After that, we will receive comments and questions and any oral protests from any interested persons. Then all comments have been, when all comments have been received, the hearing will be closed. We have more presentations? We already did the presentation.
We
Okay.
do not.
Okay. Questions or protests from the audience, please. Don't be shy.
Comments, questions, or protests?
So Rodman, Measure H, Measure L, when those were passed and when they were designed, they were for existing infrastructure in the city and would not include Cottonwood. They were specifically listed that they would be for existing city structures and to have an oversight committee and everything we've got. But it was specifically to exclude any new development. So our stance was that new development should pay its own costs.
Right, this is what the hearing
And that's what
is
I think
proposing.
is proposing to do, and I think that's good.
Okay, I'm just making sure I understand.
She's not protesting.
Anyone else? Okay, we will bring this back. The hearing is closed. We may now consider and adopt the resolution establishing the formation of a community facilities district. Questions or comments from the council?
We have to do each one separately. Oh, okay. I have no questions.
No questions or comments? Okay. Council?
I'd like to move. I'd like to move the resolution.
Do we need to read it? Although
Adopt the resolution.
Okay.
I'll second.
Picky down there.
All right. Council. All right. Do we need to do a roll call for this one? Yes.
Of course.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Regina, can we have roll call?
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Thank you.
We may now consider and adopt the resolution calling a special election for a community facilities district. Would you like to consider a motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Placerville, State of California, calling a special election for the community facilities district?
I move to adopt the motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Roll call, Regina?
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Thank you.
Are we finished, Council?
No, there's stuff on the back.
There's a second page. Okay.
You have more reading to do.
Will the clerk please announce the results of the property owner vote?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The vote is yes.
The record shows that at least 2/3 of the property owner votes are in favor of the formation of the district and levy of the special tax. We may now proceed with the final actions for the formation of the district. We may now consider and adopt a resolution declaring the results of a special election and direct the recording of a special tax lien.
I think.
Yes, I will move the resolution, or adopt the resolution.
I second.
All right.
Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Thank you.
Council, would you consider a motion to waive the first reading and introduce by title only?
I would like to move that we waive the first reading and introduce this thing by title only.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, now it says
And
it's
just,
the end of the.
right, and just may the record reflect that we were waiving the first reading and introducing by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Placerville authorizing the levy of special taxes in a community facilities district.
Thank you. Okay. Can you just? Okay. 12.2. Consider sending a letter to the California Department of Public Health requesting then deny the 2023 reauthorization of Sierra Harm Reduction Coalition services for a syringe exchange program in El Dorado County and the city of Placerville. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, or Vice Mayor and Council, excuse me. This is somewhat a repeat. This item came before you originally on June 27th when we presented some information regarding Sierra Harm Reduction Syringe Services Program. At that meeting, the council voted 3-1 to send a letter to the state objecting to that program being authorized in El Dorado County and specifically the city of Placerville. Mr. Clarici, Councilmember Clarici, was absent for that meeting. That's why it was a 3-1 vote. On September 1st, the county and the city were informed that the state actually had reauthorized the program, to our somewhat dismay based on the letter that we had sent to them, despite strong objections by both the city and the council and the county. At that point, I thought we were done. They'd made the decision. However, we were contacted again on October 13th and by the state offering to consult on the issue again. That meeting was held on November 8th. Myself, Vice Mayor No, and Chief Wren participated in that, as well as several county representatives and district attorney's office, et cetera, that were in the meeting. And we again presented our objections to the program in the city of Placerville. And the El Dorado County did the same, and then this afternoon this morning at their meeting, they approved another letter that they have sent to the state objecting to the program, and it was requested that we consider doing the same. So what's before you tonight is another letter. It's different than the other one. I'll give credit where it's due. Chief Wren prepared most of this letter, some changes that we made, but primarily his. And I have also, you'll note that it shows the mayor's signature on here, if we can get it. The mayor has reviewed this also prior to it being placed on the agenda. So what we're asking you tonight is to either approve this letter or revise the letter and authorize transmittal to the state, or if it's your preference to not approve the letter. So.
Okay, questions from council? No? Okay, before we open public comment, I just want to make a statement, and I want everyone to understand that we do have harm reduction here in the city of Placerville. We have 2 different locations at the Health and Human Resources and at Marshall Hospital, where people are able to get those services as well as other services when they come there, services that the other outreach program does not offer. And with that, I will open public comment.
I just want to say that I fully support and hope that the city council supports resending this letter with the updated stats from Chief Wren. I think that's going to be a vital component in the state hearing us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Anyone else? Okay, we will close public comment and bring it back to the council for discussion.
I would just say my position on this hasn't changed, and I'm still opposed to sending a letter to the state.
Okay. Councilmember Clarici.
Yeah, this is one of those weird things where needle exchange programs, all of these harm things, are actually, you can find all sorts of places where they work very well, and they're appropriate, and they do that. It appears that from talking to the chief and then other folks that are involved in this, that it's not working as well here. Okay. And I know that there's issues with the clientele and everything else. It's a tough thing. But generally, the chief has rendered his opinion, and I value that opinion. And I've looked at some of the statistics on this, and I've seen some of the data on it. So I'm ready to support sending the letter. I wasn't here the last time.
Do you have any comments? No comments. Okay. With that, do we have a motion?
Like, what was it? What's my line? Was it where they kind of get up and down? Anyway, I'll move the letter as written.
I'll second.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
No.
Councilmember Yarbrough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to 12.3. Consider approving 2 possible locations for the city Christmas tree west of the bell tower in the southbound turn lanes centered on the stairs, and at an alternate location within the commercial loading zone to be installed November 18th through December 30th, 2023. Mr. Zeller.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. So I'll try to keep this as clear as I can. The staff has been working on a location for our temporary Christmas tree, and we had settled on the area in front of the city or the county Superior Court building. And we went through the due process of getting written approval from the Judicial Council of California Facilities Services Department, who's in control of that building. This department does require 30 days notice for review, and staff is not confident approval will be granted by the mandatory install date of this Saturday morning. There are some other issues that we can work out, but staff thought it prudent to bring additional staff report in front of the council to talk about 2 other alternate locations to make sure that there was some public vetting and some discussion. So the 2 alternative locations are, as stated in the subject of the staff report, on either side of the bell tower, one in the commercial zone on the east side of the bell tower, and the other located in the center of the closest turn lane to the stairs of the bell tower. And both of these locations would require city staff to put a hole in the ground in the roadway, install a pipe, and backfill for vertical stability. So there was some concern, just a little background, the initial location was considering placing a live root crated tree on the westbound lane north of the bell tower. And we were going to close off that section very similar to the way we did the Ofrenda closure. That was met with resistance from shop owners to close that location due to visibility blocking their place of business and also taking away some parking. So we looked at the commercial loading zone. There was some impact, concern of impact for daily deliveries also. So the third location, which is the west location, was also discussed by staff. And so all three of those locations were put into this staff report. There is an exhibit on the back that shows my most artistic rendering ever, a Christmas tree on the west side of the bell tower in that location. The east side is pretty self-explanatory, and I think everybody's aware of the location on the east bed of the Superior Court building. So what staff is looking for is some discussion and direction on either approving the locations as presented or rejecting those locations and directing staff to take other actions. And I'll let our city manager speak if he wants to on any additional things that I've failed to mention.
Yeah, I don't, Terry covered it fairly well. As many of you know, I've been pushing and trying to get permission for the courthouse property for the last week. I am in contact with them, however, have not received, I was hoping to have received that by tonight, but I have not yet received that. So it is my recommendation that we look at an option for that in case that does not come through. I'm going to ask Mr. Warren to actually put up a picture that we did have done also. This was something that was considered early on, was if we were to actually use the bell tower as a tree. And so this was done by our vendor that does our lighting for us. He provided this mock-up, if you will. But I have to emphasize, let you know that the cost of this is $12,500, right, Terry?
That is correct.
So I'll just throw that out, and it, I suppose, could be a possibility, but I just wanted to let you know that that is there also. And you do have, I believe, one comment letter you received tonight actually supporting this option. I know that this was talked about early on and got pretty cold response from the business owners, is my understanding. So
That's also correct.
so,
Thank you,
anyway.
Cleve. Well, I don't think it's terrible, but $12,500 is pretty terrible. Questions from the council?
Yeah, so the location in the turn lane, would that mean that the stagecoach would not be allowed to operate this year because it would be blocking off the only eastbound access out of the parking garage?
Don't they close everything off?
Why don't we let staff answer?
I don't think it would definitely close it, but it would definitely require some coordination if we were to, on the days that the stagecoach runs. They don't run as often anymore, I don't believe, but I believe they still may be planning to do some. So.
Okay, thank you, Cleve. Other questions, comments?
I mean, I have comments, but not questions. Do we want to? Sure, I'll make my comments.
Well, if you want to share them, do you want public comment first or not?
Sure, I'll hear public comment first.
Because sometimes it does.
Yeah, maybe there's a solution that's been going to be.
We'll open public comment for 12.3, locations of the trees.
Well, that is not a bad rendering considering our circumstances. I think it's unnecessary cost that the city doesn't need to bear when we have a really good option that Terry's given us on the turn lane with Veer Camp. It sounds like donating the work And so, I'm in favor of having a live tree if we can have one, and figuring out the logistics of the stagecoach and making it work.
Thank you, Ruth.
At the last meeting, I suggested the bell tower, so it's hard now to not argue that it's a brilliant idea. But I'm reminded when I came by there this afternoon that there's a problem because that very space that looked so empty is used by delivery trucks as it was this afternoon. And that's going to happen all the time. There's no way you can plan it in advance. So it really depends largely on the shop owners that I support, like a major institution, the hardware store. I actually do like it for that reason, but hey, some of us can volunteer to get some scraps of artificial turf. Save you some money. It's historically the best place because that was the center of town. And in the early configurations of the bell tower, there was a platform made of cement on the second level where you now have some kind of roof structure that was much larger. There would be concerts, bands playing, political speeches, you name it, or maybe Christmas celebrations. So that really is a kind of a nice spot. It really depends on what the shop owners say, but that would be my vote, other than, again, artificial turf.
Thank you, Kirk.
I think we should buy a 40-foot artificial tree, have it, just take it out. They do make them.
They got those companies that make the things over.
Hate to be a Johnny-come-lately again, but I like the center location, but I don't think any of us want to see a Charlie Brown tree out there, or a cell tower. It's kind of what it looks like. Concept I had, and it's probably going to be a little more expensive than you're willing to do now, but maybe for next year, you have staff look at having artificial branches made where you take them down, remove them every year. It's a one-time expense. You don't keep repeating the same expense over and over again for each new Christmas tree. Make it look like a Christmas tree. It's metal branches. Sure, it's going to be synthetic, but it's not going to be a real tree. I love real trees. I don't encourage not using them, but if you're looking at saving money, set up something like that, and then to help pay for it, circulate among the store owners all along Main Street. You can build your own ornament within certain specs, and we'll have a contest. You can rent out, if you want, the lower branches so people can read them. You could have a contest as to who has the best ornament, and let's say the city council decides who that winner is, as long as there's no conflict of interest there. So just some crazy ideas I'm throwing out, but to me it's got merit. Give it a try for next year.
Thank you. Really appreciate those new creative ideas.
I hope that our wonderful community decides that the courthouse is the better option. There's one problem with putting it here at the bell tower, and that is digging a hole in the middle of our brand-new Main Street. Hello, we spent how much money to get that street put together, and now we want to dig a hole and stick a tree in it? That's going to be costly, and it's going to be costly to repair, and then we'll have this marvelous hole in the middle of our brand-new Main Street that we just did not that long ago. So this, quite frankly, is uglier than the tree that we've already got. I'd go back to our poor blown storm-tossed tree and put lights and ornaments back on it and say, this is our Christmas tree. It's been our Christmas tree for how many years, and just keep it. If it's strong enough to hold the ornaments and the lights up this year, ask Chad Dragstow, will it hold ornaments? And let's just, so it's got a gap in the middle, so what? This is, I think this is hideous.
Thank you, Sue.
Good evening, guys. Ryan Carter. I just want to thank Terry. Thank you, Cleve, for all the effort that you guys have put into this. I know this has been a real pain in the you-know-what. it's just such an integral part of the experience of living in our town is Christmas here on Main Street. And I just want to applaud the effort of the city in making this happen. I think this is, this is obviously not going to happen this year. We all know that. But this location next to Sourdough and Company, I think is going to be wonderful. It's beautiful. And the fact that we have these great local companies donating their efforts and their time to do it just shows how important this is to all of us. So thank you very much to all the staff that put out this effort to make this happen, and let's make this happen. And thank you for expanding the time beyond Christmas to the 30th. That was going to be a little weird taking it down before Christmas. So anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, no one else? We will bring this back to council for discussion. Nicole, you were first, so we'll.
Can I?
City manager has.
I just want to clarify and thanks to our city engineer reminded me of something, or actually our senior engineer. We're looking at two locations. One is the commercial parking space on the east side of the tower, or the turn lane on the west side of the tower. She brought up, Melissa, that potentially there may be a turning radius problem for a semi-truck that tries to come out of the alley if we were to place the tree on the west side in that turn lane. So you may want to think about that. It may require us to restrict the vehicles coming down there, and that is heavily used almost on a daily basis by at least one semi-truck for deliveries. So given that, if you want one of these locations, I would recommend we do the commercial parking space.
Why is it so hard to have Christmas in this town? I don't understand. Why?
I guess I would like you to also look at the picture in the handout. The commercial vehicle that's actually parked in the commercial vehicle looks like somebody's luxury SUV.
Councilmember, excuse me. I'd like to mention also that I did talk to Albert at the hardware store about the commercial space. His comment to me was not so much concern for himself, but he said the restaurants use that space a lot. That was his comment to me. I didn't get the impression that it was a big deal to him. And I think that is because most of his deliveries he gets earlier in the morning, and he actually blocks off spaces in front of his store for those deliveries. Now, with that said, I agree 100% that is probably the heaviest used commercial parking space in the city. We do have others. There's one across the street. In fact, you can see it in this picture, the yellow curb across the street that is available for commercial parking, a rather large commercial parking space. And then they do park, as I mentioned, down the alley from here, Stagecoach Alley also. But
So neither one of these locations are optimal.
I'd like to make a comment, if I can, too, about the hole in the asphalt. We had talked about doing saw cutting and putting a pipe in the ground, and then we could leave that in there, and for the rest of the year, just have a steel plate fashioned for it also. That way it could be accessible more than 1 year if we are still struggling with locations.
One thing I do want to point out about that commercial spot and puncturing the street in any form is that there is a cistern directly below that parking stall, the commercial parking stall on the east side, and we found that the hard way.
Then it would just.
Can I ask a question related to that?
Go. Please do.
The north side.
Yes.
Is there any issues in terms of like utilities or traffic with like engineering issues with the north side? I understand there's other issues, but is there anything on the north side related to that?
You would just, not really. I mean, you could actually set it up there fairly easily because you would be losing the use of those parking stalls directly in front of those businesses. But, if that's something that everybody's willing to entertain. But as far as utilities go, not horribly so, no.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Can I comment?
Yeah,
Please do, Chief.
I think, with the turning lane, you're putting it between Sourdough and the bell tower. So if you're driving down Main Street, I always thought it was cool when I drove down Main Street, I saw the tree.
Right.
Now, granted, if it's placed in the commercial zone, you only get that going one way, but that's one way worth taking. But if you sandwich it between either the north side or On the west side, it's just, it's a, it's a bell tower tree and then a building. And I talked to Tadlock about that commercial zone. He said the busiest use is in the morning, later in the afternoon and in the evening. They may be commercial vehicles, but they're not engaged in commercial activities. It's a parking lot, it's a parking space of convenience for them. And I said, well, what if we wanted to put a tree there? And he seemed to think that the drivers that he knows that frequent this route figure it out. They know the challenges of Main Street, Placerville, so.
But we still have the problem on the east side of drilling a hole in there.
I think it's big enough, it's a big enough footprint where I
Yeah,
don't see
you-
why you can't put a base.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to
Fabricate some
Cleve
sort of
about.
base, and then anchor it to the bell tower if you need to.
Correct. You don't need to put a hole.
Like a wire.
That's one good windstorm
Whoa,
for
Joe.
taking a bell tower
Whoa.
down.
Okay.
Pineapple.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, Councilmember Yarborough.
Yeah, my quick little comment on that with the commercial space, coming from somebody who used to drive commercial, if the space that I usually parked in was occupied, I found another place to park.
Well, that's true too.
So,
They-
and trust
they
me, most
double
of these
park.
commercial drivers, I walk downtown early enough in the morning. Yeah, the first guy that gets there, of course, he's going to grab that space. But if it's full, those commercial drivers pull up to the sidewalk, stop in the middle of the street, unload their stuff, and keep going.
Right.
So I don't think the commercial drivers themselves are going to be the issue. It may be the merchants that might have an issue with it, but I don't think the commercial drivers are going to be that big of a deal. So
Yes.
that helps any.
It does. My attitude is if Officer Tadlock says it's good, it's good. Yep, it's good with me.
So we have this 20 to 25-foot tree. Did we look at the possibility of putting it next to the tree where we normally put it? I just want to look at everything.
Are we talking
Because
about
nothing
the-
looks optimal.
Are we talking about the Monument Garden area?
Correct.
That would require Caltrans closure of Bedford.
That's right. Remember the Caltrans closure.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion that
Can
we.
I just, quickly, sorry. I just want to mention that regarding the east side of the bell tower, yes, actually, Terry and Nick and I have looked at options to put a base down rather than having to drill into the street. And I believe that that is an option that we could probably make work.
Yeah. Don't put a hole. Make that in your motion. Don't put a hole.
Okay, I want to make a motion that we use the east side commercial space for our Christmas tree and that we try not to put a hole in the asphalt. Make it so. Was there another comment coming? Was there another comment coming?
Let's hear it. We want to hear everything first.
Yeah, before somebody seconds this motion.
See, this was sincere heart. Please don't puncture the asphalt.
Oh, okay, no, we don't want to do that. Okay, we're good.
If at
Thank
all
you for-
avoidable.
But isn't there water down there?
That's true. If there's a giant
I just thought, I
cistern,
mean, if it's a giant cistern.
if there's a giant cistern,
have
shouldn't
a
we be
free
taking
water
it?
Know what we went through to pave that?
It's fine. I'll reiterate. I will. My motion is to use the east side commercial commercial space of the bell tower, and try to the degree humanly possible not to puncture our asphalt.
Any other questions, comments, discussion before we do that second? Going once, going twice.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clarici?
Aye.
Councilmember Gottberg?
Aye.
Councilmember Yarborough?
Aye.
Vice Mayor No?
Aye, because I only don't see another option. Thank you.
Have all sorts of options. They just shoot
So just a quick question. I know we passed this, but Cleve, if the state comes back and says, hey, you can do this before we actually put the tree up, can we still do that? Oh, okay, great.
Alternate to the courthouse site, and we hope that we may still get that approval.
I think, okay, we voted, okay. I think we should have a contest to have somebody come up with a way to decorate the bell tower as a Christmas tree that obviously doesn't look like that. And but is also like thoughtful about being able to be put on it, taken down, put up,
not crazy stuff.
For this year or next
No,
year?
no, no, no. For a future date. A
Okay.
future date. I think it's a great idea.
Great. Okay, we will move on to item 13, council reports. El Dorado Transit, that's me. There's a draft park and ride master plan out for comments, if anyone would like to look at that and make comments. We adopted a CIP for the collision avoidance system and ratified the executive director employment contract. Next is El Dorado County Transportation Commission.
Okay, we actually we did a lot of things. There were two of the foundational documents for our organization, the Regional Transportation Plan, and then there's a bunch of stuff that goes with it. It's a 20-year document. It's updated every 5 years. It's basically kind of like the Bible of transportation for the whole region of West Slope. And it's really interesting. It has all the potential projects, funding sources, deficiencies, and then what you do, the projects that you would do on all sorts of different mobilities. So it's not just roads, it's everything that you can think of in terms of mobility. They just starting that process, so you'll see workshops and public meetings and hearings for that specific thing. The other one was the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. This happens every 2 years, and it's to access funds for improvements typically on the state highway system, but they can also be used for local roads in some circumstances. This was an information item. They'll be bringing us actually the RTIP in December at our December meeting. That has projects like, for example, things that have been in the RTIP. The Western Placerville interchanges in the RTIP. Improvements that have been made, other improvements that have been made along the highway are in the RTIP. So just to give you an idea, but there's also planning money that's in there. There's several things. There can be bike projects. It just depends. That project, that'll be coming to us for its final form because it has to be presented to the California Transportation Commission by December 15th. So those were two things. And then there's this new thing that is really inside baseball, but for transit it's really important, and it's called SB 125. And we were given a presentation on that, and we were given some draft proposals to use the funds. I won't bore you with the details, but for transit, it's very important. It's been designed basically because a number of the large transit agencies and the fixed rail systems in the state are all getting crushed because of the COVID and then the changes in commute patterns. So like if you get on a BART train now, there's like not even half, it's like a third of the people, because people aren't going to San Francisco or to all the places that BART goes to. This is a 4-year program, it's a bridge program, and then they're going to come up with another way to fund transit. So those are all cool things that we did from that perspective. And I'll bring your attention to the Greater Placerville Wildfire Evacuation Preparedness thing. You've heard about this. This is a plan for kind of the area along Highway 50 and around the town and up north, up towards Camino, and then down a little bit west of Placerville for just what it says, Evacuation Preparedness, Community Safety and Resiliency Plan. They've had a number of workshops and the like. And that's ongoing. They are going to be bringing that back to us, let's see, sometime off. They had a community meeting up in Camino not too long ago. So that's an ongoing thing. It's very important because it sort of identifies how they envision evacuations happening, and then pinch points. Roads that are too narrow, bridges that are too narrow, any place that might present a problem with evacuating people in a timely fashion along this corridor, this area specifically. So that's just something I want to bring to your attention because it's really important. Anyway, and we'll have another meeting in a month.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, let's move to LAFCO.
We'll have a meeting, and it's going to be fun, in December 4th or 5th, whatever that Wednesday is.
6th, December 6th.
Is that the Wednesday? Whatever that Wednesday is.
It will have the MSR for Placerville.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good times. Anyway, that meeting will happen. LAFCO.
Okay. We'll move to SACOG, but Mayor Saragosa is not here, so we'll get that next time. Pioneer Energy.
We meet on Thursday of this week.
Great. Placerville Fire Safe Council, I think we already got updated on the fire safe stuff, and we will move to Opportunity Knox Continuum Care.
We approved issuing some additional housing vouchers, and also we did discuss the MOU for the temporary navigation center. That will be coming back in our next meeting for approval by the EDOK, and then my understanding is at that point it will go out to all of the other parties to review and comment and decide if they like what it has to say as well.
Great.
So it will be coming to us sometime soon. It might be done by the time the temporary navigation center is closed.
Thank you for all your work on that. Okay, do we need to take public comment? Public comments on item 13. Does anyone have comments on our comments? And seeing no one, we'll bring that back and move to number 14, requests for future agenda items. Does anyone have anything? None? Do I need to take public comment for that? Okay. Number 15, city manager and staff reports. First, we will take our city manager report.
Nope. Well, you can.
I know something you don't.
I just have one item I want to announce tonight. As we celebrated earlier this evening, Rebecca Neves will be leaving us. Actually, Friday is her last day. Will be missed. As you recall, previously I spoke to you and you authorized me to consider going out for recruitment using professional services. I reviewed those options and had a lot of discussion with staff internally and option that we have, and I've made the decision to appoint our senior engineer, Melissa McConnell, as interim city engineer. She has accepted that, so that was fortunate. And so she will be interim in that position for a few months. We'll look at that and see how things go. And I do want to announce also that we have arranged, some of you possibly know Phil Boydston. He was a retired annuitant that worked for us several years ago. And he's a retired city engineer for the city of Livermore. A lot of experience, very good skills, and he has agreed to come back on an interim basis also to assist and keep things running and assist Melissa, if you will, in what she'll be doing there. So I want to let everyone know that that's where we are right now, and we'll evaluate that going forward over the next few months.
Great, thank you. And thank you so much, Melissa, for stepping up and taking that. We really appreciate that. Excited. Okay, we will move to 15.1, receive and file October 2023 police report. Stats Chief Wren, is there anything you want to highlight for us?
Nothing specific concerning the statistics, but I'll answer any questions if you have any. But I do want to mention that with our conversion to the RIM system, the stats you see today are probably going to look much different in December. Once that system gets going and we're a little bit more comfortable with it, we're going to push out information to the public, because there's a component to the system called Citizen RIMS where the public could view everything we do real time, look up our stats, become more invested in crime and safety within our community. So good things are coming. We're just trying to figure out this system right now. So
Great, thank you. 15.2, receive and file October Fire Station 25 run report. Chief Cordero.
Thank you. Within your packet, you'll see the stats for Station 25 for the month of October. The crews have been extremely busy, but they're doing a really good job, and I'm really proud of the work that they do and the service they provide. And thank you, Chief Wren, for the heads up. I'll work on upping my game and making some changes to the report. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? No? Okay. We'll move to 15.3, Developmental Services Department's permitting statistics for the month of October 2023. Mr. Ribas.
Thank you, Council. Nothing really to highlight other than it was nice to see that both the revenue and impact fees were up this year compared to this time last year.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions from council? No? Okay, we will open all of these up to public comment. Does anyone have any questions, comments on 15.1, 0.2, 0.3? Seeing none, we will bring it back. That makes us to upcoming items. Item 16, I'll let everyone read that at their own convenience. And number 17, adjournment. We will adjourn this meeting at 9:57 p.m. Thank you. 8:57. I saw the 9. I'm tired. Good night, everybody.